One loud construction boss yells across the site, ordering his crew to pack up fast. They are going home soon. Nearby, a young guy chugs a drink. He casually tells everyone that he is already on his way out. Asked if he is staying for dinner, he politely declines. His friend jokes, wanting to know his diet secrets since he never looks tired. The real truth behind his endless energy is actually incredibly simple. Vitamins, only vitamins. He takes them daily, wondering if anyone else knows. This is 22-year-old Park Hanul, and ever since his army days, he knew his body processed supplements uniquely. It started back when he tried some pills given by a bunkmate. After a brutal day of physical training, 2 pills wiped his fatigue instantly. A dose of omega-3 cleared his head like magic, later off the bus. He walks planning to grab a hot coffee, but then he notices a desperate-looking girl staring directly at him. She walks right up and says, "This is her very first time telling anyone." Park Hanul freezes completely. Expecting a sweet romantic confession, excitedly, he asks how he can help. But it is a trap. She is trying to recruit him into a sketchy cult. While walking away, she insists she is good and introduces herself as Han. Stunned, he jogs away, wishing her well while silently cursing the whole ridiculous concept of cults. This is a sore subject for him because of his father, who once claimed he was destined to make a miracle. Drug and become a literal saint. He quit his stable job and moved to the countryside to brew bizarre mixtures. He ended up hospitalized constantly, eventually desperate for deep answers. His father simply wandered off into the wilderness to find divine energy. That was 20 years ago, when Park Hanul was only 2 years old. Now, buying his daily vitamins, he remembers how much his mother suffered. Honestly, if his father had just taken standard daily supplements like him, he would still be around today. But just as Park Hanul leaves the store, a bizarre energy hits him. He looks up and sees a massive glowing circle floating in the sky. Nobody nearby knows what to make of it. As everyone stares in confusion, Park Hanul realizes it was not there before. This is definitely not street art, and it looks nothing like a drone. Maybe it is a spaceship. Whatever it is, get ready for chaos. Suddenly, the ground shakes violently. People scream and run in sheer panic. But Park Hanul stays remarkably calm, scanning the madness around him. Then, as the pavement splits wide open, a monstrous clawed hand emerges from the dark gap. A terrifying beast slowly pulls itself out of the abyss. It is a demon towering over him, and it is coming straight for him. His survival instincts scream to run, but then something deep inside shifts. His heart pounds like crazy as a strange message suddenly pops up. Activating his nutrient reserves, even the massive demon pauses, seemingly hearing the electronic voice ringing out, energy supplied, enhancing physical functions. Instantly, Park Hanul's senses sharpen. Time itself feels incredibly slow as the monster lunges forward, but the attack is ridiculously sluggish. He easily dodges, completely stunned. He cannot believe how fast his body is reacting. It makes no sense, but the power is real. Had it always been hidden inside him? Was it those supplements? Either way, he finally knows. He can run, he can escape, but as he looks around, he sees others are not so lucky. Innocent people are being ripped apart by demons right there in the middle of the street. Pure rage boils up inside his chest. If he has this power, he can actually fight back. Without hesitating for a second, he charges forward and sends a brutal kick into a demon. The beast is launched backward. Instantly, both of them scramble toward a heavy wooden club nearby. But Park is too fast and grabs it first. He swings, slamming it right onto the creature. Its head cracks. Honestly, it was pretty weak, but there is absolutely no time to celebrate. A fresh wave of monsters rushes him, but Park is locked in. He welcomes the fight. He drops them one by one, his body moving with terrifying precision. The street is littered with dead beasts. Panting, he looks up and instantly freezes. Standing right there is a colossal demon, easily twice the size of the others. It glares straight at him, finally noticing its slaughtered pack. Adrenaline pumping, Park wonders, maybe this giant is also a pushover. But before he can even move, the massive beast charges straight at him. Blood sprays. Elsewhere, the rest of the city plunges into madness. Terrified citizens scramble for survival. One guy nervously asks what they should do now. What happens if those monsters find their hiding spot? Another panics. He screams to lock the door right now, but before they can move, a body crashes in. It slams right into them, throwing everyone to the floor. They look up in horror. A massive monster stands in the doorway. One man drops to his knees, begging for mercy. He screams for someone, anyone, to save them, and right on cue, help arrives. Somewhere nearby, a cigarette is lit. Then, the system chimes. Elixir consumed. Suddenly, Park comes flying through the air like a missile. He lands a devastating kick that sends the giant beast crashing backward. Park strikes a quick pose, feeling the wild adrenaline surge through his veins. He smirks, muttering that it is time for round 2. He lunges forward. His fist connects directly with its face. He unleashes an absolute flurry of punches. Giving the monster zero room to breathe, he attacks. Refusing to back down, the demon lunges. Park dodges effortlessly. He yells that he still has plenty of energy left. He cracks another heavy blow into its jaw, then grabs its ugly head. With a massive crack, it slams face first into the asphalt. Finally, the beast goes down. Park catches his breath, wondering if those cigarettes actually gave him a hidden buff. He silently hopes his mom is safe, but just when things seem quiet, the demon stirs. It roars back to life, grabbing Park by the skull and slamming him down hard. Groaning in pain, he barely stays conscious, but somehow catches its massive fist. He holds the blow back with pure willpower, summoning every ounce of remaining strength. A brutal fist drives straight into its gut. This time it stays down. Drained, Park collapses to the cold pavement. He cannot even lift a finger. But even now, more screaming echoes nearby. The nightmare is not over. The nearby civilians did not make it. He tries to stand, but nothing moves. His tank is completely empty. Where did these things even come from? Why are they slaughtering innocent people? He silently begs for the nightmare to stop. Right before his eyes, another beast grabs a helpless civilian, and Park can only watch. He is forced to watch, completely helpless. The nightmare isn't over yet, but suddenly, a figure appears floating in midair, chanting a spell from a piece of paper. Wiped out instantly, the entire demonic horde is gone. Park is utterly stunned. He watches in absolute shock. Honestly, was that even a human? A girl approaches him, clearly impressed by his performance, wondering how he managed to defeat a demon without any formal training. He is still too shocked to even respond to her probing questions. She steps closer, demanding to inspect his hand to check on his state. Though he hesitates, some invisible force suddenly pulls his hand right toward her. She closely examines his palm, and her expression instantly flips to pure shock. Shocking, what she senses is not divine, not demonic, and definitely not human. It is an irregular power, and she can barely wrap her head around it. A wave of sorrow and grim determination flashes in her eyes for him. Though it is a tragic fate, she cannot let this dangerous power run wild. But before she casts the spell, Park offers his deepest, most sincere thanks. He confesses that without her intervention, he would have died right there. Hearing this, her hands freeze mid-spell. She quietly stares at the boy. He is so polite and genuine, making her realize what a tragic waste this is. She makes a quiet, difficult choice regarding his wild, untamed energy center. Suddenly, she pops a strange pill directly into his mouth, without warning. He swallows it. He winces, asking what that horribly bitter thing was. She calmly explains that the pill is actually a special seal for him. It locks down his energy, a method usually reserved for demonic threats. But for Park, it is the only way to keep him breathing. His unstable power will eventually consume him and destroy everything around him. He will suffer, but she whispers that it is for his own survival. She begs him not to hate her, wishing him luck until next time. Without even sharing her name, she turns and fades into the distance. Park collapses onto the hard ground, staring blankly up at the sky. He struggles to process her parting words about being some kind of irregular. Is this tied to his weird system attribute? He slowly drags himself up. Bitterly, he mutters that without his powers, he would be a corpse. He refuses to let his strength be stolen. Honestly, can you blame him? Wasting no time, he bolts to a nearby store and downs some supplements. The system registers the drugs. From this moment on, everything changes. Park makes a final choice. If he has power, he is using it. Sometime later, he is back home, buried under a mountain of health supplements. Even cheap hangover cures seem to boost his energy, but his mind still wanders. He keeps thinking about the girl and her warning of a looming disaster. But there is absolutely no time to waste on doubts. He packs his things. Preparing to head straight to his mother, his phone suddenly buzzes. A government alert: monsters are spreading fast, danger is everywhere. The alert urges everyone to download a new survival application immediately. He opens the App Store and squints at Special Precautions, number 24. He mutters that they rushed this app because the user interface is terrible. He installs the app anyway. Once downloaded, he scans his ID card to log in. Access granted. Suddenly, glowing neon symbols flash all around. What the hell? Park mutters, squinting hard through the sudden glare. Before he can process this, a voice echoes in his mind. Spiritual physique detected. Commencing body analysis. Park instantly flinches. This has to be the irregularity she mentioned, finally forcing its way out. Pain flares up, brutal. Of course, the mystery medicine is kicking in now. Desperate, he chugs another supplement to ease the burning in his chest. Relief is instant, but the system scan is far from over. A new alert pops up. Scan complete. Detected substance, blue void. Attribute trees. Park just stares. What on earth was he born with? Pulling blue water from this raw source was practically a miracle. Some called it bluish fuel because it packed the energy of the planet. It is a condensed world elixir, and Park is just waiting here. He has no clue this blue energy was in the medicine he took. Since his hangover drink neutralized the poison, only pure power remained. The toxic side effects are totally gone, leaving only the good stuff. Now that residual cosmic power is completely trapped inside his body. Talk about a lucky break, but his body is suddenly burning up. The physical fever is incredibly intense, so he decides to sit tight and let it pass. Restlessness takes over as he tries to find a comfortable position. That is when a crazy idea hits him. Meditation might actually work. He crosses his legs, not some fancy movie pose, just simple meditation. Still, the posture feels surprisingly natural and calm for his body. He figures he will just hold this pose until the heat fades. Honestly, he wanted a normal life, cursing his supposedly weak body. Just then, the automated system chimes in with the final analysis. He has a normal body, but it is packed with tree energy. Did the girl drug him because she knew he was irregular? What does this weird nature energy even mean for him now? At least the lethal poison seems completely gone, neutralized during scanning. It is a massive relief. A red flag would have got him killed. And then everything shifts. A golden interface overrides the screen. A mysterious figure steps forward, broadcasting a message to all of Korea. The strange man warns everyone that his upcoming words are the absolute, ultimate truth. 10,000 years ago, this world was a terrifying, chaotic place. Massive monsters roamed the Earth, alongside cosmic invaders from across galaxies. Humanity was nothing but cattle, hunted and discarded like trash. But in that dark era, a chosen few unlocked spiritual physiques. This awakening granted ordinary humans incredible, godlike power. Suddenly, their raw lifespans rivaled those of the monstrous beasts they fought. It was the dawn of an era where anyone could become legendary. These legendary warriors, known as monks, stood against the heavens. They sacrificed their lives to seal the celestial gates forever. Because of them, humanity was finally safe to inherit the earth. Over time, these guardians became myths, their stories whispered down through generations. They quietly kept watch over the gates while the rest of humanity marched forward. Or at least that was the plan, until everything shattered just a few hours ago. Now every chosen monk has to patrol their area to keep people safe. These warriors undergo intense testing before they can enforce the law. That gives them absolute authority to enforce order when things get bad. Meanwhile, Park is staring at his system, trying to decipher his skills. Suddenly, a cluster of new holographic screens flares up right in front of his face. He looks around, starting to realize that almost everything around him represents a potential skill. He can actually feel a strange, pulsing heat emanating from specific points on his body. The diagram on the screen shows the exact same physical posture. With systematic training, he can finally channel his internal heat. All he needs is to make just one of those three places warm up. Once the warmth spreads, he can officially begin his Earth Path training. Up until yesterday, Park did not believe in ancient gods, magic, or any religion. Yet here he is, desperately practicing a sacred, legendary breathing technique. He drops into a meditation pose and is immediately shocked by how natural it feels. He figured that even with a special spiritual body, manipulating energy would take forever. Usually, gathering spiritual force in the three internal cores takes months, if not years. It all comes down to raw talent, but with absolute focus, anyone can reach emptiness. He completely tunes out the entire world, slipping deep into a silent, unconscious state. Just like that, Park takes his very first step on the path of a monk. He blinks open his eyes, shocked to find wild plants wrapping around his body. What on earth is going on, and exactly how long has he been sitting here? He grabs his phone, only to find the battery completely dead. He needs to find a clock somewhere to check the time. But look at the date, it is June 22nd, meaning over 100 days have passed. 100 days of non-stop meditation. After a long, much-needed shower, he feels refreshed. He is just glad the running water still works, but something is seriously off here. His old wounds are fully healed, and he does not even feel the slightest bit hungry. He has not lost a single pound either. If anything, he feels incredibly strong. With his phone finally charging up, he decides it is time to check the news. But looking out the window, he spots a massive, glowing barrier dome in the sky. Giant gaping holes tear through the shield, with terrifying monsters spilling out of them. Danger zone, the whole area is lost, and now the ground violently shakes. No earthquake, something massive is out there, moving through the dust. A giant, horrifying shadow stomps straight across the open field. Lesser demons crawl over the surrounding buildings, hunting for flesh. Park realizes he has to pack his things and escape this nightmare immediately. But there is absolutely zero cell service out here to call for rescue. Somehow, his sacred breathing technique kept his body alive for over 3 months. He survived 100 days in the lotus position with sheer mental strength. Suddenly, a quiet system alert blinks, welcoming Park back to the interface offline. It warns him that most advanced features are currently locked without a network. He frowns, searching the interface for anything that can help him survive. The only thing opening is his status screen. It shows some pretty strange information. He spots 2 available charm copies. Suddenly, the system chimes in. 3 charms are usable. Higher tiers unlock depending on his ranking. The first reward is called Soft Steps, a special 9th tier magic. Park smiles. This seems too easy, leaving him wondering if that is all. He checks himself. Still, he cannot feel any actual change in his body yet. He takes a step. Immediately, his face slams hard into the brick wall. Ouch, and trust me, that hurts, but at least the magic is real. It turns out he has some other wild abilities, waiting to be uncovered. One allows him to carry massive weight, the other creates a light tornado. Park is stunned should he test that flashy tornado out on the roof. There is a problem, though. Nearby monsters would easily spot that bright light. They would hunt him down instantly, but he did copy that breathing technique. Should he check it, right on cue, the system sounds an alert. It explains that training is split into tiers from 1 to 10 stars. Reaching the 5th star lets him control nature, completely blowing his mind. He can actually level up, however, his excitement is immediately crushed. Raising a single star takes at least 10 years of absolutely non-stop, grueling training. That means he needs 70 long years just to use those high-tier moves. Still, the young man wants to check exactly how many stars he has first. To test this, he channels energy into his hands to check the rings. He focuses, guiding the energy. The number of rings represents his tier. He stares down. What he sees completely catches him off guard. No time to think. A terrifying monster is charging straight towards him. He needs a weapon fast. Within seconds, a massive tiger bursts inside. It lunges instantly, its sharp claws tearing deep into his shoulder. Pain flares. He recalls an ancient skill called the absorption method. It allows him to steal a beast's life force, so Park acts fast. Unbelievably, he activates a 6th-level art to counter the massive predator. It works. The high-level technique completely obliterates the beast. A soft green aura surrounds him. He only survived because of that skill. But the extreme physical strain is too much, and he collapses. Fortunately, the system confirms his muscles are reforming and stabilizing his blood. His red cells spike. Suddenly, a bright green glow flashes from his eye. Staring down at his hand, Park wonders what is happening. A massive wave of raw power is suddenly surging through his body. He figures it is because he absorbed the monster's life energy. Honestly, this is perfect. He finally has enough power to cast the tornado. Looking to the side, he spots something strange on the dead beast. Tiny green plants are actually sprouting directly from the tiger's carcass. Those definitely were not there before. He decides to gather them. Walking away, he realizes there is a catch. He can only use one. But if he drains monster energy mid-fight, he could do something incredible. Still, it is much safer to avoid unnecessary trouble for now. He just needs to stay alive until the rescue team finally arrives. Staring at his light tornado skill, Park realizes he will have to use it eventually. Right on cue, another vicious beast lunges straight at him. He immediately activates the light tornado skill once more, driving a massive wind-infused fist right into the creature. There is absolutely no time to catch his breath, knowing he must push through and survive this nightmare. Waving his tornado is his only signal for rescue, but the path ahead remains completely blocked. More monsters swarm the rooftop, forcing him to keep tearing through them. It is a relentless cycle. The monsters just keep coming back, completely unending. Eventually, he scrambles onto the building rooftop, completely frozen by the absolute nightmare of a sight waiting for him. Looming right there is a colossal beast, massive enough to crush the entire building. Staring at the monster, Park feels like he is going crazy, and honestly, can you blame him? Suddenly, another threat creeps up behind him. It is do-or-die time. Grit teeth and charging forward, he unleashes his light tornado ability directly at the giant beast. Later, a loud voice echoes through the air, demanding to know where the kid is. Spotting a powerful cultivator hovering in the sky, Park frantically waves his arms to signal his exact location. The flying man looks down, asking why he is just standing there like an idiot. The man demands to know if Park lacks even a basic talisman to fly, or at least jump up here. Park mutters that he only has the 3 starter talismans he got earlier. Sighing at how boring that is, the man tells Park to just hold out his hand. But Park hesitates, pointing a shaking finger at the colossal shadow, rising directly up behind the unsuspecting stranger. Without even turning around, the man casually slips out a paper talisman. He obliterates the beast instantly, warning Park not to make him repeat his orders. Demanding the boy hold out his hand, the cultivator asks who he is to wander around a highly restricted zone. Park tries to explain the mess, but the man wonders if the kid simply lacks a survival instinct. The cultivator cuts him off, coldly snapping that he does not care about any of his excuses. Grateful to be alive, Park thanks him. Once outside the barrier, his phone starts buzzing. Seeing hundreds of missed calls from his frantic mother sends an absolute wave of cold panic straight through him. It makes sense, considering he was trapped inside that hellhole for 100 days. He is just incredibly relieved to know his mother and all of his close relatives are safe and sound. So much has changed while he was gone. What does the world look like now? Soon, he is resting inside a secure facility, calling his mother to let her know he is finally safe. He brushes off his disappearance as getting lost, promising to return in a few days. Assuring her that everything is fine, he promises he will see her again in a few days. An officer nearby asks if he is done, and Park nods in relief. He is just glad his entire family managed to survive the chaos while he was locked away. Suddenly, an official bursts into the room. Trust me, this guy is not playing around. The man demands to know if this young boy is indeed the incredible newly awakened talent everyone is talking about. His escorting officer tries to explain that Park is under their local division's command. But the superior completely ignores him, coldly ordering the subordinate officer to leave the room right now. He snaps at the guard, warning him not to force a high rank to speak twice. Turning back to Park, he demands to know if the boy somehow achieved ascendance even before his gate opened. Park denies it, but the man demands to know if he is truly worthy. Keeping his composure, he silently evaluates the strange, pushy expert standing right before him. Suddenly, a glowing system prompt flares to life, and the man asks if he can see it. He presses Park, questioning if the screen clearly displays the legendary status of Ascendant. Out of all 9 legendary high ranks, only a handful of disciples ever reach this level. High Saints represented the absolute peak of the mundane hierarchy, yet this man had earned recognition for his raw talent, qualifying as an Ascendant. Under his master, age or background mattered little, since the one who logged the most training hours under their master was considered the senior, regardless of actual age. Naturally, Park asks if Ascendant was the lowest rank and what rank his master held, irritating the senior who snaps at him to stop talking nonsense. The senior warns Park that he was born with a spiritual physique. If he wants to survive in this brutal world, he must stay protected by his superiors because there are no second chances here. If the boy speaks like that again, he is dead, but Park calmly notes he heard nobody could change masters 3 times, suggesting the senior was only sticking around because he found the master's strange way of speaking so amusing, leaving the senior absolutely furious at the massive disrespect. But right then, check this out, a system screen flashes with the protagonist's stats, revealing that he assumed the senior meant that rank was the closest level above Ascendant. Standing up, Park declares he must do his absolute best for his senior, sometime. Later, the senior is arguing with the master, demanding to know if he treated his senior with proper respect, and asking if he really surrendered his secret combat techniques. Irritated, the master mutters that he was incredibly foolish for trying to say he inherited a mere bandit's moves while bowing his head to that weakling. However, the senior counters that the boy's actual combat output far exceeded his own, proving he is a high saint. The master suggests it could just be his physical condition, but the senior argues that would mean he possesses an irregular physique. This explanation only serves to annoy the old master further, questioning if he will keep babbling nonsense and if he is trying to imply that the kid was born with a basic mundane physique, just like the two of them. The senior asks if that makes his training faster, but the master has no real answers, noting how rare it is for humans to align so close with nature. humanity originally crawled out of the oceans to live on dry land, mastering fire to survive the freezing cold and melting iron for their tools. Although there are close similarities among living creatures, their basic natures remain completely incompatible. The master notes that the report to help her was likely due to this extremely rare situation, warning him not to speak of the training method, because they will soon deliver a special medicine to keep things safe. Once the boy's breathing finally stabilizes, the master carefully watches him. Finding the entire scene highly fascinating, it seems the legendary star Wind only responds to those aligned with nature, leaving him wondering how he never knew this. Meanwhile, Park sits at home typing away on his computer, fully aware that according to official government statements, not a single person has ever been found with an irregular physique. Globally, the few who did test positive are immediately isolated. Talk about a nightmare. But our clever protagonist has slipped under their radar. This spiritual physique is generally split into three distinct categories: the celestial, the mundane, and the human, but the fourth is an unpredictable, highly volatile spiritual physique Yet that fourth spiritual physique was completely unpredictable. Even after the saints vanished a decade ago, monsters still tried to invade. So the remaining holy ones joined forces to banish them from our world entirely. Now their entire existence is treated like ancient myths. There were two very clear examples showing how deep this secret ran. It made sense for him to get exiled. After all, he was no famous killer. While sipping his warm coffee, a system alert pops up about a consumed enhancement drug. It says some was mixed right into his bag of brown rice tea. Watching him unlock its maximum power is honestly pretty terrifying. This is the exact same guy who supposedly finished with a totally average spiritual test result, which is exactly why he was given that strange blue matter from Brazil. Since he has no idea how long this power lasts, he starts searching. He needs a reliable replacement, but the public databases have absolutely nothing. It seems the government heavily restricts what regular people are allowed to know. But then a brilliant, completely unexpected idea strikes his mind. Typing forbidden substances into the search bar, he actually finds a lead. He stares closely at some mysterious seeds, trying to place where he saw them. Then it hits him, he has definitely held these exact things before. Park remembers grabbing them after fighting a beast, realization washing over him. Maybe these things are way more common than he first assumed. Looking them up online, he finds 0 pictures of them actually sprouting. So he posts an anonymous question asking if anyone recognizes them. It turns out they are purgatory herbs, which naturally grow near the river Styx. Eating them raw is highly toxic and will make a human incredibly sick. Sprouting them requires impossible conditions, making germinated seeds extremely rare. Yet Park looks at his own stash, they are already sprouting. Time to experiment, he uses the dry seeds first. He channels his solar wind breathing technique directly into the dry seeds. They sprout instantly in his hands, then a man bursts in. The intruder screams, but the room is empty, Park has vanished. Did he escape? The man mutters, checking if anything was stolen. Opening the fridge, he realizes the kid only swiped a single peach. Somewhere safe, Park continues his very quiet experiments. Within just 2 hours of focused breathing, a tiny tree flourishes before him. It has grown incredibly fast, proving his energy is linking with his surroundings. This is legendary. The solar wind technique really can accelerate nature. If he keeps cultivating rare herbs like this, survival will be easy. Living as an unregistered irregular is not going to be a problem. Park plucks the fresh purgatory sprout and swallows it whole. As he breathes, a familiar heat spreads, just like the blue matter. Suddenly, the glowing red aura completely vanishes, leaving him feeling totally confused. Did he mess up, he wonders, trying again only for it to fade. He thought it was working, but some residual heat lingers in his lower abdomen. Perhaps the void blue matter was just a much higher quality drug. Chewing on another fresh sprout, he decides to give it one more shot. The red aura flares back, but this time, the heat is completely different. He suddenly remembers an online post discussing yin energy and the purgatory. The herb held a deep yin nature, while the blue void matter was pure yang. Park Hanul wonders if he needs to learn a special absorption technique for this. But dealing with mixed, chaotic energies out there could easily end his life. It is a massive risk. Still, he feels a wave of pure relief. Even if the efficiency is low, his raw power can still climb. The young man tears the small tree from the dirt when a sudden noise startles him. It is just a phone notification. The screen says the king's son is dead. It warns everyone to avoid the rain and evacuate their homes immediately. Panic spreads instantly. Angry, terrified people scream, asking why the warning came so late. Then the downpour begins. Strange monsters called morms flood the wet streets. Panicked voices shout to stay back and avoid touching the beasts. Park Hanul spots a glowing protective barrier around the building. He is glad he followed them. Suddenly, a desperate scream echoes from outside. A massive, terrifying bird looms over a helpless woman, freezing Park Hanul in shock. Claws tear into her clothes, lifting her high. It drops her straight into a nest squirming with giant worms. It glares at the survivors. A terrified man mutters that could have been him. Park Hanul activates his skills, watching an innocent person die. No way. He strides directly past the safety barrier, fully prepared to fight. He charges the monster. A heavy fist slams into its head, dropping it instantly. He crashes the beast down, stunned by his own explosive new power. He wonders if the strange purgatory herbs he ate earlier caused this. But there is more. This pouring rain is actually the Dragon King's tears. Drinking the falling drops supercharges him, making the natural elements around him explode. It activates and rapidly amplifies his deep connection to nature. He feels unstoppable. Instantly, he applies artifact refinement directly to his tree branch. It transforms into a deadly demon slayer blade, but the giant bird is rising. Enraged, the monster lunges. Park Hanul braces himself for the impact. If his guard slips for even a second, he will be thrown back hard. He is dangerously close to the barrier, meaning he has to stand his ground. The beast leaves a tiny opening. Seizing the moment, he drives forward. He slashes hard, but his blade does not leave a single scratch. Is this weapon not strong enough yet? The massive creature rises once more. Its eyes lock onto the sword, but it suddenly pivots toward the woman. He dives in, pulling her away just in time. She whispers a frantic thank you. He warns her not to relax yet. The bird screeches in absolute fury. It strikes with blinding speed. The injured woman barely scrambles back inside safety. But Park Hanul is not as lucky. He is thrown violently into a stone wall. He struggles up, relieved. His active defense layer saved his bones from breaking. But the protective spell is gone now. The monster circles back to finish him. He grins through the pain. A bird that size flying is just ridiculous. But escaping is no longer an option. His body is weakening fast. His powerful herb is wearing off. What if he plants sprouts? It is a massive gamble against a flying nightmare. Beating this monster is an absolute gamble, but he has no choice. Time for his trump card. This blade behaves like both plant and steel. It actually roots deep into the ground. It needs time to gain power. But with the dragon tears falling as rain, he has a golden opportunity. He uses a special technique to absorb the rainfall and siphon the beast's energy. Now the weapon is fully charged. Pure lightning crackles around the blade. Park Hanul charges. He strikes a devastating blow on the giant monster. The impact sends the beast crashing, getting its massive head pinned inside a building. Hanul seizes his chance and cleanly slices the monster's head right off. The onlookers are stunned. Nobody can believe a kid defeated that beast. Normally, if someone died to that giant bird, the government wouldn't even care. But this young hero risked his life to save a stranger without a single hesitation. The crowd starts filming him, hailing him as a real-life superhero. But out of nowhere, a mysterious attacker lunges at Hanu with a furious question. He demands to know why Hanu dared to kill Miss Hua's highly cherished pet messenger. He wants blood. To him, burning the boy alive is barely enough punishment. Footage of the sudden attack goes completely viral, sparking a massive public outcry. The goddess asks if her beloved child died and if they burn the culprit who killed her messenger. Her assistant quietly explains that the boy has only been taken into custody. Yoa scoffs, feeling insulted that they are merely detaining the kid instead of executing him. Yoa is absolutely furious. She orders her guards to notify all of humanity. If they want to avoid her terrifying wrath, they must execute the boy as an example. But her assistant nervously interrupts, warning her about a major new report. Hanu's heroic actions have already gone viral and are trending everywhere online. She suggests playing nice with the kid, especially since public unrest is at an all-time high. The public hates the new leadership, making Yoa complain about how boring these laws are. Still, she expects Vern to have a solid plan to quiet her anger. The loyal maid assures her that a special tribute has already been prepared. It will protect Miss Hua's spotless reputation, prompting Yoa to eagerly wait for it. Suddenly, the rain stops. She notes that the Dragon King is finally pacified. It seems even powerful transcendent beings are driven by their own deep desires. Miss Hua clutches a package. She is thrilled to finally hold her prize. The only thing that matters is getting this ancient, legendary piece of tree trunk. Its fruit is a divine treasure, growing from flowers that bloom only once every 3,000 years. This mythical tree only grows in one place, the orchard of the Queen Mother. It bears the legendary peaches of immortality, straight from the orchard of the Queen Mother of the West. Yoa notes that when the Queen Mother sacrificed herself to seal heaven's gates, her orchard vanished. But if she can cultivate a single sprout from this bark, things will change. Her own name will finally replace the goddess's. Meanwhile, Park Hanul walks down the street. He remembers the warning to keep a low profile and avoid angering the gods. They told him his heroic actions made the deities look bad, so he must lie low. Hanu looks down at his hands, thinking deeply about his next crucial move. Though they took his sword, he is still incredibly happy with his secret prize. Earlier, he discovered a strange block of wood hidden inside the giant bird's body. He can't help but wonder why this specific piece of wood was tied to its ankle. The monster's trunk was actually alive. Before he could process it, that man suddenly appeared. Park Hanul grabbed a sprout right before the strike landed, barely escaping. He wondered if he should try cultivating it. A whole year later, a news report drops. The government is taking major steps to purify the city's water supply. But citizens are complaining about the foul smell, blaming a hidden monster for the water crisis. They want the government to handle the beast first. Just a month ago, chaos struck. With celestial energy completely out of whack, a massive monster crawled into the Han River. 1,000-year-old giant snakehead fish had crossed over from the monster world. Once inside the human river, its power grew so massive it claimed godhood. Calling itself the sovereign of the Han River, the beast made a terrifying declaration. No one gets water until a human sacrifice is made. Watching the report, a young boy looks on. The boy scoffed, muttering that the overgrown fish must have a tiny worm brain. This was young Jeju, a skilled disciple from one of Korea's 8 sacred mountains. Suddenly, another voice snaps at him to stop making stupid comments during their meeting. He tells the boy to sit up straight and act like a proper disciple. This strict speaker was Shin Soman, the youngest high-tier disciple of the sacred mountains. But Jeju couldn't care less about this useless meeting. This wasn't some minor issue they could just talk through and solve on their own. Everything ultimately depended on the grand decisions of their powerful elders, but Yua. She snaps in irritation, asking if that lazy attitude is what his master taught him. 10,000 citizens are already sick from the water, demanding an urgent solution. She demands to know how the arrogant boy dares to insult her master. Jeju fires back, asking if she actually has the power to slay the river beast. 4 of the strongest immortal mystics already tried to stop it and failed miserably. He asks if she is simply trying to get them all killed by that monster. Honestly, trying to take down this massive river sovereign is a complete nightmare. The beast has mastered both earth and water magic, a deadly dual-threat combination. Almost no one can dual-wield high-level elements like this giant fish. To win, they need an earth master strong enough to drag the beast onto land. Or they need someone with peak control over both elements. Standing up, Jeju speaks. He won't stop her crazy plans, but he is absolutely not participating. Furious, Yua crushes the presentation remote right in her hand. As Jeju leaves to train, he mutters that the problem disappears once someone kills that fish. Later, Yua treks deep into the forest, carrying a legendary demon-slaying sword. She remembers how a strange man used this exact weapon to kill her pet bird. Though the culprit was jailed and freed, the Immortal Society confiscated the blade. They locked away the rare wooden artifact, keeping its deadly power under wraps. Because it was carved like a sword, it caused major chaos up in the heavens. But as the lingering spiritual energy slowly faded, the celestial panic finally settled. Meanwhile, Park Hanul hasn't stepped a single foot outside the Wanok mansion all year. He only left to grab food with his mother, spending free time watching movies. The girl recalls him saying he completely cut out using any smartphone apps. Without those trackers, he wouldn't even be able to calculate his combat achievements. But considering everything Park Hanul has survived, this quiet lifestyle makes total sense. Just then Park Hanul appears, but spotting her, he immediately ducks around a corner. Yang Jae knows she cannot lose him, chasing after him, but quickly realizing she cannot catch up. Even running at absolute full speed with a magical talisman, she is completely outmatched. She loses track of him, but Park Ham suddenly reappears, asking if she belongs to the Immortal Society. No running away, he had absolutely zero intention of doing that. He was just caught off guard. Seriously, what is his deal? The boy is sweating. Why rely solely on raw physical power? Why skip the talismans? Breaking her train of thought, she tosses a phone to him. Its registered user has been updated, and Park Ham complies, pulling up his personal profile. Yang Jae looks closer, finding he is still a high immortal, though ranked below her. Park Ham asks if she wants his wood element to kill the sovereign of the Han River. Does her secret society actually want that terrifying monster dead? Yang Jae shakes her head, explaining that her powerful seniors chose not to act yet. They want to test the juniors, letting them handle this threat without any hand-holding. But Park Ham snaps back, pointing out that thousands of innocent people are currently suffering. He agrees to cooperate, but first, will he be paid? He wants his sword back. Yang Jae is stunned he even knows. He explains that simple breathing allows him to connect deeply with the surrounding trees. That natural connection is the core function of the ancient technique he mastered. Yang Jae finally understands how he moved through the dense forest at such incredible speeds. First things first, will they finally lift his incredibly strict curfew as a reward? She admits a reward is possible, but causing a massive scene remains a huge problem. Besides, nobody can promise him a thing just for helping out. She explains his current punishment was handed down by higher-ups for a past incident. He killed her bird, but now that mess can be resolved. Persuade the master, slay the river creature, and his record is clean. Soon after, Park Ham stands right by the edge of the flowing Han River. His companion grumbles, why did they have to come to this place? He is clueless, what is Park Ham trying to pull here? Yang Jae quickly steps in, urging everyone to keep their heads cool and stay quiet. The river sovereign is near. What can the boy actually do? He pulls a strange album from his pack. Honestly, it looks repulsive. He prepared this item carefully, but never expected to deploy it so incredibly soon. Yang Jiu warns him, getting any closer to that water is suicide. But then she freezes in shock. His next move is completely insane. Park Ham jokes, asking if she never learned basic plant cultivation back in grade school. This particular species is perfect for rapidly purifying contaminated water right on the spot. The purification is halfway done, but of course, peace never lasts in these stories. A massive, terrifying shadow rises. The beast is finally here. Drawing his blade, he grins, time to go fishing for some giant prey. A deafening roar shakes the earth. The beast claims to be a god. No bowing to mortals, it launches a brutal, lightning-fast strike. Park Ham barely dodges. He immediately prepares a counteroffensive of his own. He unleashes a powerful spell, hurling a concentrated burst of energy at the monster. How dare he? The beast roars in rage, but its screams cut short. A barrage of projectiles strikes it directly. That only leaves the monster even more enraged. Yang shields the others. He is amazed. By using those purifying plants, Park did something incredible. The boy completely drained all the corruption right out of the river's sovereign. Still, if he keeps going at this rate, he simply cannot win. The monster sneers, "Your little tricks with invisible energy will never work." It launches another brutal strike, sending the boy tumbling toward the lake. But midair, Park tosses even more seeds to support himself. He grunts that this is the absolute last one he has. Flinging it at the beast, the creature mocks the simple lightning branch. It asks if he expects to destroy its massive body with a toy. But Park smiles, explaining that this toy is already in its heart. Can you feel it? With that, he dives back into the water. Promising they will meet again, he begins to weave his final spell. It is a custom-made lightning dart, and he cannot let it escape. He unleashes a massive electrical surge across the entire area. The strike lands, a blinding explosion swallows the sky. The beast is dead, Park sighs, noting the air is fresher now. Standing on the giant serpent, he worries about the attention he drew. Causing a scene like this rarely ends well for a rogue. So that is why the gods neglected this river's sovereign. It was all just a trial for their own elite disciples, not normal people. Scanning the water, Park finally spots the exact prize he was searching for. It is the creature's inner core, surprisingly small but incredibly dense. This crystal was its only hope of ever becoming a true dragon. He claims it as his reward, but a harsh voice suddenly yells. An arrogant man demands to know what the hell he is doing. Suddenly, powerful binding magic wraps tightly around Park, locking the boy instantly in place. This formidable celestial king goes by the name of Mikasha. Watching from above, the young girl instantly recognizes the man. She recalls the advice to stay quiet around these arrogant immortals. Let those ungrateful immortals deal with their own mess. But subduing the sovereign has completely altered the fate of this river. And now, the high and mighty gods have actually showed up in person. She greets them respectfully, asking what brings the esteemed seniors here. Mikasha sneers at her, demanding if she truly thinks she has authorization here. He notes she is the disciple of the great Master Tebek. She quickly nods, confirming it, but the god only gets much angrier. He demands how a top disciple can be so blind to this situation. This boy she brought along has only trained for a single year. A rookie without a master, wielding a rare wood construction technique. And yet, he just defeated a legendary river sovereign entirely on his own. He demands to know if she even bothered questioning his true identity. One more word, he warns, and she will bring shame to Tebek. Completely terrified, the girl falls silent, but then Park starts laughing. Mikasha glares, demanding to know if the boy has lost his mind. He asked why they thought he was desperate, wondering what he did wrong. Just because he held a unique ability, they doubted his every move. But this was already the second time this happened, so he was all ready. Checking his phone, it was only 3 minutes after the fish died that they suddenly appeared. Everyone around watched him, completely baffled by his words. Park warned them that they should have kept a closer eye on that fish. Their immediate arrival made him ask if they truly believed killing it helped. Did they really think the public would cheer for a dead specimen? Since they just destroyed their only path to growth, they came running here in panic. Now thoroughly annoyed by their desperation, the young man told them to shut up. A sudden explosion rocked the area, and they blamed Park for the blast. But Park stood there, surprised to see his own strike do absolutely nothing. He calmly noted that he always aimed straight for the stomach, just like last time. Park drew his blade, sending his opponent into a fit of pure rage. The man demanded to know if Park understood the gravity of drawing against him. He asked for his last words, but Park knew death wasn't on his radar. This weakling couldn't kill him if he tried, even as he prepped an attack. Calling Park's arrogance absolutely boundless, the furious warrior unleashed a devastating strike. A massive blast tore through the area, but a sudden arrival shocked the attacker. An unexpected guest stepped in, reminding the watchman to stick to his guard duties. He demanded to know what business the watchman had loitering around here. This was Elder Bank, a powerful immortal from the three realms of heaven. He had a request for his lady, hoping he had not ruined their little display of power. But this was just mindless violence, and frankly, the kid looked pretty foolish. Still, if they wanted to clash, he would not stand in their way. It would only ruin their names, especially since Park had zero excuse. He warned them not to cross the elders before vanishing into thin air. The attacker muttered, wondering why the lady sent Elder Bank to save Park. Later on, as they walked together, Bank asked if he knew help was coming. Was that the only reason he dared to act so reckless and bold? The elder offered a piece of stern advice, noting that while Park felt special, such extreme arrogance would only pave a direct path to his own ruin. Park kept his mouth shut, simply thanking the elder for the lesson. A year and a half flew by since that humbling day in the garden. Yet he still remembered the sheer confusion and constant setbacks of his past. Good intentions, simply, were not enough to survive in this ruthless world. So he meticulously planned his moves as a legendary saga began unfolding. The legend of the Han River Sovereign was finally starting to take shape. He refused to blindly stumble forward or suffer through those humiliations again. No one would treat him like a brainless victim ever again. Miss Yua owned a private garden filled with rare, divine medicinal herbs. They were carefully cultivated, though most people dismissed it as a rumor. To get solid proof, he devised a clever way to catch her eye. He needed to grab her attention, and his plan was working perfectly. He stood prepared right before her as Yua calmly asked for his name. She addresses the young man as Park, asking if he even knows what those actually are. He calmly replies that they are seeds of the legendary purgatory grass. Mortals actually finding such legendary seeds, absolutely shocking. It was sold on the black market, so she hunted the dealer down. Sensing danger, Park acts, he immediately drops to his knees. He explains that his desperate, dirt-poor living conditions left him with no other choice. But she gently tells him to raise his head, saying it is fine. He already paid his dues. Still, her sudden mercy comes with a very heavy catch. The price for killing her precious bird was never going to be light. Still, she offers another chance. Why not come work in her private garden? She owns a private garden dedicated solely to breeding rare herbs and mystical plants. Since Park could grow purgatory grass, his rare talents are completely undeniable. He easily possesses the rare talent needed to grow special aquatic plants. He neutralized the Han River Sovereign's poison, so Park bows and thanks her. He is honored by her high praise, but attributes his farming success to a specific technique. Yua counters that with such a method, common flora should bloom within days. With that skill, common plants should easily bear rich fruit within days. Yet Park explains that his purgatory grass refused to grow past the sprout stage. He tried everything, yet the stubborn sprout refused to grow at all. The lady raises an eyebrow, asking if he simply lacks the proper dexterity. Our hero admits that is exactly the case, prompting her to smirk. Talk about nerve, she cannot believe he is bargaining with her. Regardless, she promises to supply him with divine herbs and high-grade farming tools. To guide his growth, she will personally oversee his progress and enlightenment. She will even assign another young assistant to aid his progress. Park bows deeply once more, thanking her profusely for this incredible mercy. He secretly smirks. This was all part of his master plan. Signaling a hidden girl, Yua asks if she had been there the entire time. The subordinate quickly steps forward, prompting her master to ask for her verdict. She distrusts him. Park is acting far too polite to be real. Talk about a sharp instinct. She is convinced he is plotting something dark. She reminds her mistress that this boy slew her bird and beat the river sovereign. For an inexperienced amateur to pull that off makes absolutely zero sense. He is either an absolute tactical genius or just a complete, reckless idiot. The girl wonders if her master knew about his schemes from the very beginning, but accepted him anyway. That is precisely why the lady ordered her to keep a close eye on him. Yua tells her not to stress, as he is only managing the sixth garden. Even if he harbors dark intentions, he will never get away with it. He will not touch a single seed, and if he turns out to be useless, she will gladly turn his body into fresh fertilizer for her plants. She recalls they only teamed up because of the legendary Peninsula Peach. She hates her mistress. Still, she hopes the boy proves useful. Meanwhile, Park strolls down the street, analyzing the massive power levels around him. The hidden immortal had a power level over 300, and Yua exceeded 400. Having mastered 10 stars of his technique over the past year, he is ready for anything. He could roughly gauge their power, but he didn't fully trust those numbers. The Celestial King and that hothead were above 600, plus Beck boasted a power level exceeding 400. Park, meanwhile, sat at a mere 45. He thought back to the Starwind techniques he learned over the past year, but they were still completely theoretical, meaning he still had a mountain of work ahead. Finally arriving, he figured he was exactly where he needed to be. Right then, he stumbled upon a glowing sacred tree. Whispering to the bark, he offered a gift he brought today. The raw sentiment harvested from the sovereign of the Han River, since he gave something valuable, he figured he deserved a little favor in return. Sometime later, Park sat meditating in front of the trunk when he suddenly snapped awake. Completely stunned by the sweet, heavy scent of peaches, somehow he even boosted his attack power just from sitting there. The breathing peach had spent the entire year training its form, but only during this past week did the flowers actually bloom and bear some fruit. Even so, the peaches were still pretty tiny, but they had grown just enough for him to finally take a quick bite. Suddenly, a strange voice warned the kid not to be so hasty. Looking to his side, Park froze. A tiny bear was actually talking to him. Stunned, Park asked who he was. The little bear replied that the elder had dubbed him Guanaki, so Park wondered if this was the mountain god, Guaneskin. Realizing that since the gates of heaven opened, ancient deities began revealing themselves. But this deity had some pretty terrible luck. Centuries ago, when they moved the capital to Hungwang, the local officials feared Mount Guaneskin's raging fire energy. They tried neutralizing it with water energy, building a mythical unicorn lion statue and digging out a blue lagoon. Through all these weird rituals, they constantly disrupted the mountain's natural flow. That is why this deity stood barely half his height. Park mentioned he had been training right here for over a year, so he expected they would have crossed paths much earlier. Yet they only met today. The bear shrugged. He had no reason to disturb a dedicated warrior during his training. Still, Park wondered if the beast was really after the peach. though the tree's barrier kept everyone out. Park told the creature to hang on, explaining that he just needed a quick bite to eat, but the bear warned him again, asking if he was deaf. Because taking the fruit right now would be an incredibly reckless move. The tree's defense is concentrated entirely inside that peach. Pluck it, and the barrier drops instantly. What would he do if the greedy eyes watching this place decided to strike? Park frowned. Was this little bear trying to steal the sacred prize? The bear snapped back, asking if he looked like a thief. But it was not just about him. Others would eventually find this hidden spot. In fact, someone was already waiting at the bottom of the hill for him. Looking up, Park sensed the massive barrier vibrating with an intense energy. Pointing a tiny paw toward the sky, the bear reminded him of his earlier warning. If those outsiders were battering the seal this hard, they were absolutely desperate to get in, or maybe they wanted the peach. This is a glowing peach from the tree of immortality. Park wonders if it is the legendary peach from Journey to the West, the one that made the Monkey King godlike. But the bear snaps at him to forget that. A high-ranking Taoist is tracking them down right now, a fierce master who commands deadly fire techniques. Even with his training, a mortal body simply cannot handle that divine energy. A normal human would just explode, but the bear is a different story. He demands Park give him the fruit. That is the only way to recover. Only then can he regain enough spiritual power to protect both of them. Instead, Park murmurs a quick apology and bites right into the golden fruit. The bear completely freezes in absolute shock. Who does this kid think he is? This was the sacred peach that made the Monkey King unstoppable. Check this out, the system instantly chimes in to confirm the consumption. Park immediately drops cross-legged to meditate, trying to contain the massive rush. The bear panics, asking if his body is undergoing any sudden, painful changes. The young man just smiles and says it tastes incredibly sweet and refreshing. The giant beast is completely speechless before screaming at him for being an idiot. Park secretly thinks the bear is overreacting, but inside, things are getting wild. No matter which breathing style he tries, he cannot tame the swelling heat. It is not painful like the scorching flame from before, but gentler, like a tide. The bear sighs. It takes 3,000 years to grow a proper spiritual fruit. A peach grown in a single year must be incredibly low quality, almost useless. Park admits he is still struggling and asks the beast for some help. The bear grunts that he cannot do anything without his own core energy restored. Suddenly, the boy flicks a hard seed directly at the bear's forehead. The bear snaps, completely annoyed by the random and disrespectful little gesture. Then he looks down at the seed, realizing it is a rare purgatory seed. He asks in disbelief if Park is really giving away something so precious. The young man casually hands over a whole palmful of the rare seeds. He explains that is all he has right now and asks if it is enough. The bear quickly nods. With this much energy, recovery will be a breeze. Park then asks what their next move is, but the answer shocks him. The beast calmly tells him they need to start selling off their caves. Just 3 little purgatory sprouts are not enough to fully heal his power. The protagonist asks if there is any other way to fix this problem. The bear raises an eyebrow, asking if he has any more secret tricks. Park decides to pull up his system interface to check their current options. Looking closely at the screen, the bear points out a detailed regional map. But right then, Park senses a dangerous presence rapidly closing in on them. The bear asks if he is actually planning to stand and fight. Park nods. If he runs, they will just destroy his precious tree of immortality. To the bear, this seems like total suicide, given their massive power gap. Yet the boy remains completely calm, making the beast wonder what he has planned. Without warning, the young man charges straight toward the incoming threat. The approaching cultivator smiles, believing he has finally trapped his prey. Park stops right in front of him, and the man demands to know his identity. He questioned if this was the Celestial King's disciple, sent on his master's orders too. Drag Park back, the young man quickly confirmed it, bragging that he even had a secret weapon. They had even gifted him the legendary nine-tailed fox fan, which shocked the bear. The bear blurted out that this fan had only appeared once, 300 years ago. He was shocked that a legendary treasure could actually be forged from an ultra-rare fox tail. Since it was a sacred artifact, the tail stayed fully intact, retaining terrifying phantom energy. The artifact held terrifying phantom energy, and the young disciple smugly agreed. The weapon belonged to the beast, but Park raised a pretty obvious question. Would the Celestial King really trigger a massive explosion in a crowded place like this? The disciple sneered, asking if Park was too blind to feel the surrounding pressure. He warned that no cheap trick or desperate scream would ever save him from this place. But the bear interjected, pointing out that his weird power came entirely from that weapon. The fan was special because it carried the locked power of 4 legendary celestial beasts. Highly irritated, the disciple snapped at the bear for constantly interrupting him. Park honestly had no clue, but the angry disciple was done talking. He cursed at the little furball for sticking its nose where it did not belong. Instead of hunting some random fish, he decided he would just kill Park first. As the threat hung in the air, Park quietly analyzed his opponent. He realized the kid's raw power had shot up nearly 105 times. It felt like some broken pay-to-win gear straight out of a fantasy game. To prepare, the disciple spread his massive energy across the entire mountain range. Park watched calmly, not believing the kid was actually gathering power. Seeing his chance, Park quietly activated one of his own techniques. He unleashed his wind skill, gathering up all that scattered energy. Now watch, in the blink of an eye, the young disciple lunged forward. But Park casually shattered the attack. The bear stood there, completely dumbfounded. How was a martial arts technique like this even humanly possible? Park coldly asked if he had already warned him about trying to escape. Absolutely nothing leaves this place if you are going to draw a sword. You must be fully prepared to face the consequences of a brutal counterattack. Enraged, the disciple demanded to know how an unguided bastard dared challenge him. But just then, a faint blue glow wrapped around the boy. Immediately, the glowing boy collapsed unconscious onto the hard ground. Park walked over to check on him, knowing exactly what went wrong. Recklessly wielding such a divine weapon always comes with a heavy price. Instead of granting him ultimate strength, the fan greedily devoured his very soul. Park was skeptical about that theory, but the bear had a different thought. If a master used it, the entire mountain would be completely gone. Park stared at the weapon, realizing he definitely needed to acquire this treasure. Suddenly, a loud blast shook the area. Someone was attacking the barrier. A mysterious figure broke through, grabbing the unconscious disciple before he could fall. The newcomer growled that this was an utterly pathetic, unacceptable failure. He could not believe a student of the Celestial King got beaten so easily. The boy would never escape his master's fury now, regardless of his high standing. Even a powerful commander or a supreme master of the red martial arts would fail. Was nothing compared to the 8 sacred monks. Still, Park insisted he acted purely in self-defense. He stood his ground. Everything was purely self-defense. But self-defense meant fighting back, and Park was already preparing his counterattack. Furious, the elder spat that he should have burned Park a year ago. He could not fathom why the Celestial King wanted to keep this walking disaster alive. But since it came to this, he would incinerate Park until only bones remained. Yet Park just stood there, coldly watching. In a sudden burst of movement, Park bolted, but the old man chased him down. He pursued relentlessly, firing off wave after wave of deadly magic. Cornered and exhausted, Park was severely disadvantaged. The matchup here was terrible, and of all elements, fire was his absolute worst. Fire did not suit him. The bear yelled at him to use the 9-tailed fox fan. Just channel your energy and swing the weapon, the creature urged frantically. It should work with any element, but before he could finish, a spell blasted the poor bear. The bear went down. Park hesitated, desperately weighing his options. What if the fan sucked his soul dry, just like it did to those other boys? No options left, he had to try. He unleashed the fan's magic. The elder shrieked in absolute fury, asking how a brat like Park dared use that fan. But the counterattack whipped around, slamming directly back into the old man himself. Talk about a backfire. Park watched in shock at the fan's raw power. This was true divine power, but as the smoke cleared, he wondered where the elder went. Then a devastating blow tore into Park from behind, wounding him deeply. Feeling like his internal organs were shredded, he saw the elder rising through the flames. Pathetic, the elder mocked, for making a fool of the king's disciple. And now he was waving that nine-tailed fox fan around. Park couldn't believe he survived. How could these so-called holy immortals act so incredibly wretched? The elder unleashed a deadly barrage, declaring that this would be Park's final moments. The magical blast slammed in, a fatal hit. The elder growled that he wouldn't let Park pull any more of his dirty tricks. He was going to drag him straight to the celestial king. Park lay there, entirely overwhelmed. Was this the end? He knew if his body was fully healed, he could win. But then a strange sensation washed over him. The agonizing pain completely vanished. Right then, a glowing peach began to drift in the air. The system chimed. It announced that the drug analysis was complete. Centuries ago, the legendary Monkey King sought freedom. Desperate to escape all heavenly interference, he had forged his own indestructible skin. Because of this, absolutely not a single sacred weapon in the celestial realm could scratch him. He easily endured 49 days of torment on the eightfold celestial path. Under Buddha's 5 fingers, his skin held strong for 500 years. Seeking that same absolute immortality, Dong hunted down cells that even the cruelest death arts couldn't touch. Not even the terrifying envoys from the land of the dead could damage these cells. Eventually, even the mighty king of the underworld completely gave up on trying to kill him. The system chimed again, confirming the drug was fully absorbed. It carried the peach's essence. Its power was designed to construct a custom physical core perfectly optimized for his elements. This was how Park finally obtained the absolute strength he had been chasing all along, igniting a massive internal evolution. Detoxifying the poisons, Park's newly acquired liver flooded his entire body with a cold rush. As he opened his eyes, the young warrior looked entirely different. The elder immediately sensed the massive shift. He couldn't understand how Park possessed water energy, but then a terrifying realization hit him. He had made a fatal mistake. Park was an irregular, completely bewildered himself. Honestly, he had no clue how this happened, but the cooling relief was all that mattered. Finally cool, he gripped the nine-tailed fox fan once more, unleashing a sudden, brutal strike. The completely shocked elder was struck head-on by the blast, unable to believe what was happening. And with that, the fight was over. Park instantly collapsed, slipping into unconsciousness. Beside him, the giant bear panicked, shaking him to wake. Finally, his eyes flickered. The massive beast let out a deep sigh of relief, asking if he was finally back to normal. He refused to dwell on the madness, suggesting they get moving right away. But as Park looked around, his jaw dropped. The entire landscape had changed. Deep water completely submerged the whole forest, and he simply couldn't comprehend any of it. Shaking it off, Park searched the elder's lifeless body, looking for a specific item. He needed the barrier-controlling flag, but where on earth did the old man hide it? He rummaged through the robes. There, his fingers brushed against a strange red talisman. The bear scoffed, explaining that this little charm was actually a rare treasure pouch. Basically, a handy pocket dimension capable of holding massive amounts of gear. But there was no time to celebrate. The bear warned him that others were already closing in. Enemies were racing toward their exact position. Park quickly hoisted the dead elder onto his back. The bear stared in absolute confusion, demanding to know where he planned to take a corpse. When Park suddenly dumped the body right back down, the bear yelled out in frustration. He warned that lingering here would expose the sacred tree to their pursuers. Park didn't panic. Calmly telling the beast to relax, he began weaving a spell. He was setting up a clever trap, preparing to completely misdirect anyone hunting them. You should have seen the bear. He was utterly shocked by Park's next move. He was feeding the dead Tua's body to the roots, forcing a new fruit to bloom. Park smiled. Luckily, they made it just in the nick of time. He sensed the approaching cultivators. They had finished the setup just at the last second. The bear noted the blooming tree was already masking their presence with its barrier. Still, he muttered a complaint, wishing things had gone slightly differently with the elements. If the dead Tua hadn't possessed fire energy, this new fruit would never have grown. Staring at the glowing peach, Park asked about its specific medicinal properties. But the big beast just shrugged. He didn't have all the answers. This treasure was so rare that almost nobody knew its true secrets. Since Park felt exactly the same, the bear made a quick guess. The divine fruit probably wasn't ripe yet, which explained the lack of a power-up. Park pondered this. If his new liver could truly refine and boost his water energy. His potential was limitless, but he needed to test it out carefully. What would happen if he consumed a legendary fruit cultivated for thousands of years? While Park lost himself in thought, the bear sheepishly cleared his throat. He quietly asked if Park would show him what lies beyond these mountains. Surprised, Park pointed out that a mountain guardian deity wasn't allowed to leave. The bear grinned, explaining he could easily send his avatar along for the ride. High up on the mountain, the giant bear explained he only needed to share his alter ego. Still, the beast needed raw power for that, and Park figured this bear would just cling to him like glue. But the beast insisted he had no other way to shrink down and follow Park. Since their paths crossed, the beast claimed he could finally witness the wonders of the human world right through Park. Sizing up the situation, Park agrees to the deal, but he demands a little valuable collateral in return first. Right away, the creature hands over a strange, heavy weapon. While Park inspects the tool, the bear explains that a powerful force has haunted East Asia and the Korean peninsula for centuries. This belonged to an ancient, highly intelligent race of magical beings known simply as goblins. They did not just have physical power, their very bodies held an intense spiritual energy. To focus this incredible raw strength, they crafted highly specialized weapons. Specifically, their helmet and club. Park slowly turns the weapon over. He asks if he can even wield it, since the book says only the true owner can. The bear confirms this, but explains that this item is still an incredibly important treasure. You can trade it to any goblin for absolutely anything. The helmet and club cannot be crafted twice if a goblin loses either. They instantly lose half of their total power. Park smirks at this. If the bear still has it, he probably has no idea who the owner was. Accepting the heavy club, Park decides that this is not a bad trade at all. Taking the club, he agrees to travel together, making the beast incredibly happy. Park notes that they should focus on working for the lady of the garden now. But first, time to loot. He scavenges special items from the unconscious bodies. Meanwhile, the high-stakes Hibuji 22 summit is quickly approaching. Set for the 31st of this month, officials are secretly planning to meet privately with several high-ranking world leaders. A rumor is spreading. Someone mentions the summit is actually about the mysterious Tower of Marbling. But Park corrects him instantly. Babel is the real name. This legendary structure was built by ancient humans trying to reach the heavens. While it differs slightly from old myths, the tower was incredibly real. It stood tall long before heaven's gates were shut, rebuilt in this era. Under the immortals, it will rise again according to Babylon's ancient blueprints. If this thing is built, all human languages will instantly shatter. Massive benefits, sure, but the fallout will be absolutely devastating. For starters, translation businesses worldwide will go completely bankrupt overnight. Park silently shrugs, another grand, useless global affair. This world has absolutely nothing to do with him anyway. But peace never lasts long. A violent crash suddenly shatters the quiet ride. Park scrambles up, demanding to know what just happened, then he freezes. Standing right in front of the wrecked car is that girl barking orders. She commands him to get out, introducing herself as Jack Xiong. Hired to protect him for now, she warns him against doing anything stupid. If he drags her down, she promises pain. He quickly agrees. He will play nice. Soon, the beast, now disguised as his phone case, whispers the girl's name, warning Park that she is not to be trusted. If he drags her into trouble, he will regret it, he quickly promises. He will be careful. Shortly after, the beast, disguised as his phone case, whispers the girl's name, warning Park that she is not to be trusted. Park was clearly in for a rough time. He asked the bear if he knew this girl. The bear admitted he only knew her slightly, then asked if Park wanted some intel. Specifically, her weakness. The beast explained that she simply adored handsome men. This left Park completely baffled by what he heard. The bear shared an old legend. Long ago on Jeeg Island, Mong Dorian, the son of the moon deity, was famous for his absolute beauty, while Jack Xiongbai was just an ordinary girl. She stumbled upon him while he was bathing, instantly triggering her spiritual awakening. Her special physique awakened, even though the gates of heaven were tightly closed. Back in the present, Park couldn't believe it. The story sounded completely absurd. The bear insisted that severe shock to body and mind triggers these awakenings. These special humans are chosen and carefully nurtured by actual deities. Because Jack Xiongbai possessed the same celestial physique as Mong Dorian's family, the handsome deity had accepted her request. From then on, Jack Xiongbai pursued him. But it was painfully clear that Mong Dorian did not recognize this mortal girl. As an immortal without any patron, Jack Xiongbai was absolutely furious. Demanding answers, she wanted to know why she wasn't worthy of acknowledgement. To change his mind, she vowed to give him every reason to notice her. Jack Xiongbai successfully conquered all of Jeeg Island. She became a legendary figure. They called her the chosen flower, destined to conquer the heavens and the world. After building her own dynasty, Jack Xiongbai formally proposed marriage to Mong Dorian. But her own father, terrified of her growing power, plotted to banish her. Talk about a brutal betrayal, right when she was dreaming of a happy future. On her wedding day, a brutal conspiracy unfolded as hidden assassins struck. Instead of her beloved groom, armed killers arrived to end her life. Furious, she absolutely decimated every single conspirator, even when they fought back. Using the deadly Sura flower of extinction technique, they couldn't escape her. That catastrophic clash became known as the battle that nearly sank the entire island. But in the end, she lost everything. That day, she was betrayed by her one true love. Later, greedy regents tried to exploit her power. They sent handsome young men, hoping to charm her, but they only found death. No one survived. Finally, the bear asked Park if he felt relieved. After all, she had no reason to target him. He was safe. Mainly because Park wasn't exactly handsome, this insult heavily irritated him. He snapped, asking if the bear wanted to go back to the mountains. Suddenly, Jack Xiongbai called out to Park. They had arrived at the castle. Walking up the stairs, Park apologized. Jack Xiongbai explained the castle layout. There were 6 gardens inside, each numbered from 1 to 6. The only place Park was allowed to stay was the 6th garden. He figured the 6th garden was the worst, with 0 access to medicinal herbs. But when he finally stepped inside, the sight completely blew his mind. He couldn't believe his eyes. There were 2 suns blazing above. Jack Xiongbai explained that every single gate led to a different spacetime. Each was a completely unique realm. From now on, Park was in charge. He was the new lord here, responsible for cultivating all the crops. Curious, Park asked about the previous leader. Jack Xiongbai just questioned his curiosity. He honestly believed someone was here, though the estate had been completely abandoned since. The last lord died 100 years ago. he realized that as the world changed and populations grew, the demand for spiritual herbs was skyrocketing, raising prices. The girl pointed out that just because Park stayed here, it didn't mean he would get poor pay. When harvest season arrived, he could easily make a fortune, especially since he was the only gardener working the land. She left, then Park's phone started ringing out of nowhere, making him fumble and drop it. Because of the fall, his lock screen lit up, displaying his wallpaper. Talk about bad timing. He immediately remembered what the bear warned him about earlier. Park quickly mumbled that he highly respected the young lady. A bit later, Park woke up to see the massive bear happily chewing on some food. The beast grunted, noting that the lazy kid had been knocked out for nearly 2 hours. Park asked what on earth happened, and the bear chuckled, calling it a clean hit. He was genuinely impressed, since Park landed that blow without using any proper martial technique. Even though this sixth garden was considered the absolute worst, only top-tier seeds were cultivated here. The bear suggested using this to his advantage. Park quietly agreed, remembering the girl promised to watch over him until the next big harvest. If he showed real talent, he could ask to grow much rarer plants, like those sweet peaches from before, or maybe something even more valuable. He wanted to leverage this sixth garden to quickly build up his strength. He would never let anyone ruin this place or hurt his loved ones. But first, he had to do something about the dead wasteland right before him. Looking around, he realized the entire garden was a total disaster area. A complete mess. He searched his backpack, only to find his gear was completely ruined. It made sense after his last intense fight. He thanked his broken sword for saving his life so many times. The bear stared at him, totally surprised by how sincerely he prayed. To his amazement, the broken weapon started emitting a brilliant, glowing light. Right then, the sword transformed, growing into a giant, legendary tree. A massive tree, its thick roots spread, covering the entire field instantly. The bear gasped, wondering how this kind of miracle was even possible. He assumed a damaged spirit would take months to heal, not seconds. Meanwhile, Park commanded the other dead trees to rise, using his skill. He summoned wooden golems, ordering them to start farming the soil. They immediately went to work. The bear watched in utter disbelief. The kid summoned actual forest spirits, something even elite immortals struggled with. But Park sighed, admitting he was completely exhausted from using so much energy. Stepping inside his new home, he was amazed by how massive the interior actually was. He sat down quickly, focusing on his deep breathing to recover his spent stamina. He slowly drifted deep into meditation, but suddenly he stood up. He felt a plant responding to his breath. It seemed to be hidden directly beneath the wooden floorboards. He decided to use his remaining seeds to uncover it, clawing into the ground, while the bear watched in absolute shock, wondering what he was doing. Right then, a strange shape appeared in the rubble. Suddenly, a violent explosion blasted. Stunned, Park stared right down. He questioned the glowing red circle. The bear quickly explained. Blood barrier. Whoever made it carried an immense, deeply rooted resentment. Park felt a pulse deep below. He decided to break it. Shatter it. He struck the barrier, revealing something completely unexpected. A secret chamber. Beneath the ground, a hidden vault belonged to Park, the Lord of the Sixth Garden, known by a distinct pseudonym. From then on, the next Lord of the Garden would chronicle the lady's horrific atrocities. One evening, while walking back home after drinking with a close friend, the young man stumbled into a shrine. The guardian deity there had been possessed. Helpless, he watched, but a kind scholar saved his life, stepping in to successfully exorcise the dark, vengeful spirit before his eyes. Afterwards, the traveler assured him he would recover, but warning followed. The ghost attack meant his rare spiritual physique was finally awakening. If he stayed in this world, dangerous forces would hunt him down. Dark spirits or powerful immortals, he would be tormented forever. But There was hope. The traveler knew an immortal who could guide him. Following that advice, the young Park entered the lady's pavilion. She promised training would let him transcend. Cultivation was the key. However, since he was born a mere mortal, the path was impossibly steep, like trying to reach a distant star. Still, he worked hard, doing menial jobs everywhere, piling up endless debts. Eventually, he lost hope. He believed nothing could save him. But here's the twist. Near the age of 30, he met a young child who also possessed an awakened spiritual physique. Their meeting changed everything. The horrific circumstances of how that child arrived left him shattered. It mirrored his own tragic arrival perfectly, and then he realized. He had been possessed on purpose. The shrine was a trap. The scholar had intentionally placed ghosts on him, a sick game. His entire life had been orchestrated. He was just a pawn. A toy on a chessboard. He refused to remain a servant. He bowed his head to anyone who knew the earth arts, begging for guidance. However, despite collecting and mastering every secret technique, his powerless mortal body only grew weaker and more fragile with age. Powerless, broken, in his weakened state, they gave him a nickname. Foxtail grass. They mocked his constant bowing, comparing him to common weeds. The grass growing everywhere, that became his unwanted, mocking pseudonym. He felt utterly, completely powerless, waiting for a lonely death. Then, a miracle. The lady rewarded him for his immense sacrifice. Gratitude. He was chosen to be the lord of the sixth garden. Overwhelmed with raw emotion, he swore a solemn vow. He vowed never to forget her grace, serving as the lord of the sixth garden until his last breath. From that day, he practiced. He mastered the legendary earth dragon art, and his power exploded. He grew stronger day by day, finally reaching the very edge of becoming an immortal mystic. But despite achieving so much, his physical body only grew weaker. That was when he finally understood the secret of the earth dragon art. The art was incredibly powerful, but its energy was being completely absorbed. It was fed directly to the medicinal herbs surrounding him in the sixth garden. Without even realizing it, he was just fertilizer, living fertilizer. Reading the book, Park was shocked, thinking he had only seen such things on television. He always thought immortal cultivators doing things like this was just for television. Honestly, even though he suspected it, he felt he had nothing in common with them. The bearer explained this was actually standard practice for immortals to maintain their realm. This left Park wondering, could his own journey end up in the exact same way? He wondered if anyone actually had the power to break through that barrier. The barrier, the one the man had created with his own blood. Without a doubt, that person was powerful enough to burn down the pavilion. To save his juniors who shared his fate, he had to take action. He had to escape with the stolen treasure, risking his life to protect it. Looking at them, he wondered if these items belonged to the people from the Testament. A closer look at the contents revealed they were actually mandrake seeds. Seeds cultivated by people of color from far across the oceans. Picking up another object, Park asked what it was since the book was silent. The bearer replied that it looked like a temple container for drawing lots. Park was stunned to realize the beating sound did not come from the seed. It was coming from the object itself, making him wonder if he should use it. Suddenly, chaos, an explosion ripped through the mysterious object resisting him. It refused to grow alongside him. Picking it up again, he asked what it was. The piece felt strangely familiar, making him wonder if it was a blade shaft. But the bearer revealed it was indeed a sword. Meanwhile, a lady analyzed the scene. She quietly remarked to herself that the man had indeed traveled to this place. Just then, a girl appeared, apologizing for her rudeness but insisting they act quickly. She explained that this was an incredibly urgent matter that could not wait. According to her, Yunwo had a treasure in her palace and demanded its return. The seven-branched sword was a highly unusual item, valuable even in its homeland. Its forging place was originally a country struggling to establish itself. The reason, out of 3 great kingdoms, only one struggled. Bosch simply did not have the power to support a true nation. The kingdom of Sela was founded by a man with an irregular physique. Meanwhile, Goryeo was built by a saint, the son of the previous lady. He held the powerful blessings of the ancestral spirits of the Korean peninsula. However, King Anju raised his own champion using purely human strength. All of this was done without relying on any supernatural abilities or legendary pasts. He eventually awakened his mundane physique, late acquiring the gold element to master martial arts. Managing his energy alone, he was guided by the brilliant King Anju. Although human, the king was a rare genius who pushed him to his absolute peak. But over time, the lack of skill in future kings caused Bosch to decline. Eventually, even the traces of its grand existence faded over the passing years. No other structure remained standing. He was compared to the genius King Anju, a saint prince. This legendary ruler extended Box's power across the continent and the archipelago. The 7-branched sword was a masterpiece created by the saint prince, a precious item ranking among the greatest sacred artifacts, but back in the present. A woman asks if they had ever received the blade before. The girl replies that this is indeed all they know so far, stating that when the king tried presenting the sword to the celestial king, messenger carrying the blade died of natural causes, but fortunately, the ship carrying the sword was safely recovered, but the blade was never delivered to its destination. This led the lady to ask if the girl was, implying the 7-branched sword held some kind of axis. She pointed out how incredibly strange it was. She realized the existence of that axis ages ago, wondering why the girl only asked about it now. The girl replied she did not come to ask meaningless questions. In the name of the sanctuary, she proposed a celestial lease for a 6-month period. Reading the room, the lady of the garden asked what the conditions were. The other woman stated they would wager the blade of the 7-branched sword right in the middle of that battle, requesting that if they failed to win, they could take something from the lady's estate, and if the axis of the 7-branched sword was found there, she promised not to touch another thing. Soon, the lady of the garden accepted but added one more condition of her own, half of that event. 6 months flew by. Now, a group discussed the upcoming celestial battle, planning to stream the entire fight in real time. Even the lady herself agreed to reveal it, prompting another man to ask why they would even broadcast this. It was entertaining, sure, but they were nearing the 6th garden. They had to avoid causing any trouble with the Lord of the 6th garden while reviewing their progress, keeping their heads down during the entire visit. Eventually, they arrived at the site and were completely stunned by what was inside, since the place used to be desolate. Meanwhile, our main character was just chilling, eating while reading a book, barely looking up as the guests arrived. One guest seemed shocked by how incredibly relaxed he was, just snacking in front of them. He barked at Park to show at least some respect in their presence. Quickly, Park stood up, greeting them and introducing himself as the Lord of the 6th Garden. Another boy stepped forward, saying his name was Lee, sent to report on the garden's progress. Showing a system screen on his phone, Park asked why his juniors kept calling him their senior. Realizing this boy was actually a celestial immortal, everyone around froze in shock. Park then asked if a celestial battle was about to start. They confirmed it, mentioning that even the absolute highest tier, the Supreme Immortal, along with 2 top-ranked players, would be participating from the Japanese side. Park remarked he had not heard of any such big event since he rarely went out, asking if the boy was circling around there. Lee quickly replied that things had simply turned out that way. The young boy's name was Lee. Legend says that during the Korean War, he awakened his spiritual physique after the sudden shock of losing his family in a tragic bombing. Later on, he joined the ladies' special pavilion, though he risked being downgraded, he still possessed incredible skills and was a hidden genius waiting to shine intensely. Under a true master, meanwhile, Park still believed most mortals were completely untrustworthy. But this kid seemed quite different, especially after the way he handled himself. He had quickly apologized earlier for his own servant's bad behavior, Park remarked. He could barely believe he was actually participating in this celestial fight, and bet that Park was the strongest immortal. The boy quickly admitted that although he was still pretty weak, the lady gave him a shot to join this massive event. However, some terrifyingly strong contenders were waiting there. Take Go for example. He was almost a pure immortal and rumored to carry the blood of the lady's son. Lee felt incredibly lucky just to face a legend like that in battle. Meanwhile, Park silently analyzed the young boy's every single move. Over in the ladies' camp, a serious discussion was taking place. Apparently, the sanctuary had officially accepted their latest proposal. The mortals fully backed them after they successfully took down those dangerous creatures. If they secured this win for national pride, they would rake in massive donations and praise, easily overshadowing the girl who previously slew a beast. Right then, another woman interrupted them with some urgent news. The Lord of the Sixth Garden had arrived to meet the lady. She told her to make him wait during their private family meeting, but the messenger warned that Park had said something to deeply anger them. Hearing this, another boy stood up in a total rage, shouting if the newcomer actually dared to challenge them, but the lady kept her cool. She felt dealing with Park might actually work in their favor. Rumor had it that he was dodging high ranks out of pure fear. If the boy wanted to squash those rumors, and trust me, he did, he had to accept the challenge. Watching this play out, the garden's lady agreed with the plan, asking if he could really defeat Park. The young man hesitated. Sometime later, their duel finally began. Now the lady and her entourage watched as the boy glared. He warned the protagonist not to blame him when he burned in pure agony. Park was slightly taken aback by the sheer murderous intent in his eyes. The judge stepped in, let the battle begin. Instantly, the young man started hurling a barrage of lethal spells at Park. Park countered with his own magic, but his opponent just laughed. He mocked Park, asking if a weak shield of leaves could save him. That pathetic defense would not save him from what was coming next. No way. Instead, he began summoning a giant magical meteor. With a cruel grin, he declared that this was the end for Park. But Park was completely unfazed, charging up his own magic instead. In a flash, the two devastating spells collided with immense force. Park's defensive magic effortlessly blocked the attack, shocking the young challenger. His shield was absorbing everything, and then a massive explosion erupted. Suddenly, a mysterious man appears right in the middle of the battlefield, apologizing. He apologizes for interfering, standing directly in front of the young protagonist. The stranger says he simply could not watch a young child die out there. But the stubborn boy protests. He can still fight, so back off. The stranger just smiles, completely confident that the boy has already won this. He claims such incredible talent would never bring disgrace to their sacred pavilion. Watching this unfold, the lady stays quiet before finally accepting the clear outcome. His words carry massive weight, and she agrees the boy is highly valuable. It's over. The lady turns and calls out for Park. Meanwhile, the young hero can only stare at the stranger, wondering who he is. A bit later, the lady demands to know how his training went. Park explains that because of the unique nature of his earth element and the explosive speed of his martial arts, his growth was incredibly rapid. He knew she brought him here to cultivate, and he is ready to obey. She can order him to do anything, promising her that his loyalty is absolute. He promises he would never betray her. The lady remarks that his words are incredibly bold, asking if he planned this from the very start. She tells him to stay in the competition while she prepares 2 spots. Just as Park turns to leave, he stops to ask one final question. He asks to be excused for a bit. Soon, we see him walking. He is walking beside the very stranger who stopped his fight earlier today. The lady promised him a companion, but he never expected this eccentric guy. Gathering his courage, Park casually asks the man what his actual name is. The stranger says his name is Dan Dio, but he can call him Ryang. Despite his grand entrance earlier, the man seems surprisingly relaxed and chill now. Glancing over, Park asks if he would like to grab a drink together. Soon, the unlikely duo are strolling through the streets, laughing and sharing drinks. Ryang admits that even with all his knowledge, the human world is special. The immortal realm cannot compare to the energy of the human world. Park smiles, genuinely pleased to see that his new companion is having fun. He mentions hearing rumors that immortals occasionally visit the mortal plane. Ryang nods, explaining that, after he originally died in the human world, he ascended to become an immortal with the crucial help of the lady. Yet he was devastated. He was completely locked out of the human world. Park silently watches him, sensing the profound sadness behind his calm words. He must have left behind so many unfinished regrets despite achieving greatness in life. Ryang continues, admitting he once wanted the entire world to remember his name. He wanted a legacy that would outlive him, even after his final breath. Looking back now, he calls it a foolish dream of his immature youth. Living in the immortal realm only made him obsess over everything he lost. He regretted all his missed chances, though he knows it is all just history now. He chuckles, apologizing for the long speech, and warmly thanks Park for listening. Because of the young warrior, he gets to experience his beloved home one last time. But just then, the peaceful moment is shattered by a loud commotion nearby. A furious crowd is protesting. They want the Dragon King to banish all humans. Sacrifices for that year. Seeing this, Ryang asks if Park understands what they are looking at. It is hard to believe. Their leader is sacrificing his own people. Furious, Ryang demands they go hunt him down right now, but Park tells them to wait. As a dark, swirling circle forms above them, looking like a strange eclipse. Suddenly, a deadly aura fills the air, and then, a massive explosion. Panic strikes, people are running everywhere, screaming in absolute terror. In the darkness, a cold voice snarls that they do not know their place. Losing his temper, Park charges in and strikes him down with his tool. But as the enemy falls, desperate cries for help echo nearby. Without warning, a heavy blow strikes Park from behind as a voice mocks him. They never expected to find a pest like him in a place like this. He has wandered into the wrong world, and now they will take his life. Feeling that familiar, sickening energy, Park realizes this guy is from Musha. He has hated this vile presence since the giant statue shattered. It is the exact same dark aura the woman sensed back then. On top of that, this newcomer is radiating pure, unfiltered bloodlust. Park calmly asks if he was close friends with the weakling he just knocked out. The man sneers back, claiming Park will pay dearly for his crimes. Park just scoffs, asking what kind of crimes he has actually committed. With a silent grin, he starts weaving his magic once again. The spell spreads out, and Park tells them they are the ones paying today. Suddenly, massive wooden figures rise and march toward the enemies. They tear through the henchmen instantly. The shocked woman screams out. She orders her remaining men to release their deadly phantoms immediately. They need to rip this arrogant brat limb from limb. The terrifying spirits swarm forward, but Park has a backup plan. He never wanted to resort to this, but thank goodness he bought that short pipe earlier. Taking a deep drag, the magical herbs instantly flood his system. His raw power, endurance, and focus skyrocket to a whole new level. Grabbing a thick, heavy root, he promises to make this very quick. He begins crushing them one by one, but the woman just laughs. She mocks him, claiming his petty tricks cannot break a mountain. She screams at her men to summon even more ghosts. They must trap him completely, but watch closely, she is in for a shock. Suddenly, blood sprays from her mouth as her subordinates collapse in agony. They roll on the ground, screaming for mercy that is not coming. Park looks down coldly, asking if she thought he was just using swords. No way, he had a much deadlier plan waiting in the air. Staring at the rising smoke, the horrified woman realizes too late. The pipe's smoke cleanses Park, but to anyone else, it is a lethal poison. It is a truly terrifying trick, and she fell right into it. With her final breath, she gasps out for her father. Suddenly, an explosion occurs. A mysterious man appears through the flames, asking who she was calling out to. Another figure stands beside him, wondering if she actually meant the master. Observing the powerful young man, Park realizes this opponent might actually be the celestial god Makosha. Sudden movement, and the guy gets slammed violently to the ground. He struggles to get up, furiously asking who they are and if they even know his true identity. But Park's companion just scoffs. Their status means absolutely nothing here. The fact remains that he committed an unforgivable sin against these innocent people. Hearing this, the young man bursts into laughter, calling their righteous speech nothing but pure nonsense. He tells them to remember his face before they both burn in hell. Because of his twisted curiosity, he refuses to let any mortal survive. Wait, he is not just absorbing dead bodies, he is stealing their strength. Why would anyone use innocent people for this? The villain's dark art is terrifying. And how can they stop it? Park has absolutely no clue. He wonders if his legendary nine-tailed fox fan is the only option left. There is absolutely no guarantee it will work, but he is completely out of choices. Suddenly, his companion speaks up. This is the forbidden, ancient blood reincarnation technique. He never expected to see it in the human world and asks Park for his sword. With the blade in hand, the companion locks his focus onto the target. In this tense moment, the companion stands completely focused and ready. Park hands over the weapon, and with one swift strike, his friend cuts. The glowing sphere is split cleanly in half. He declares he has a duty to fulfill. He cannot punish mortal sins just because he belongs to the immortal realm. But stealing immortal lives and sacrificing them for power is an unforgivable crime. Therefore, a true member of the immortal realm must deliver the ultimate punishment. With a cold look, he unleashes a devastating flurry of cuts. Seconds, that is all it takes for the villain to fall dead. Thanks to swift action, the authorities round up and arrest the remaining terrorists. They confirm the suspects belong to a dangerous organization called Rio Album. Meanwhile, a high-ranking lady watches the breaking news as a commentator gives his opinion. He rants on television, claiming the mortal authorities did absolutely nothing to help. All they did was film the chaotic scene while actual heroes stepped up. Soon, the broadcast displays the real identities of Park and his companion. The news host gasps, pointing out that these faces look incredibly familiar. He asks the viewers if they remember the hero from 18 months ago. The legendary figure who decapitated the giant monstrous bird during the crisis. Later, the companion bows before his lady, deeply apologizing for his actions. He admits he has failed his duties and will accept any punishment. The lady turns her cold gaze to Park, asking if he still dares to look her in the eye. Park immediately bows his head, offering his sincere apologies for the trouble. To his surprise, the lady does not actually seem angry. She gently tells him to raise his head, admitting his choices were not wrong. However, she sternly warns him to be far more cautious next time. She instructs Park to expect some minor disciplinary action for this stunt. With that final warning, she dismisses both of them from her chambers. Sometime later, Park finally returns home to his peaceful, quiet garden. It feels like he has been away from this place for ages. He pulls out some old notes, completely shocked by the statue's hidden secrets. He recalled thinking the item had no real power to it, but right after. The little bear popped right onto his head, asking if that was his own handwriting. Haniel asked if that family had somehow crossed the bear in the past. The angry spirit snapped back that their family was the sole reason he ended up like this. Meanwhile, Haniel kept studying the scroll, looking for anything out of the ordinary, convinced that the author of these words was none other than King Sang. The text was tragic. The king knew his time was running out. Yet he feared nothing, well, almost nothing. His only real dread was the thought of watching his own son die before him, followed by deep worries for the kingdom. He saw Haiyang wasting away daily from a divine curse. Because of this, he feared that after his own passing, a conflict would erupt. He worried some tyrant backed by the immortals would seize the throne, drowning the entire land in the blood and tears of innocent people. After all, the gods had already stolen countless human lives in the past. To stop them from treating humanity like a simple plaything ever again. Even ordinary people without any special spiritual talents would need a weapon. He wrote about a distant war in the far northwest involving letters called runes. Supposedly, combining these secret characters together would unlock their ultimate, hidden potential. Flowing like a sacred verse that packed real power within the spelling. If anyone could string them together, they could perform miracles. Imagine a script that powerful, it is absolutely mind-blowing. Haniel realized the king was trying to build a system like the ancient scripts. The bear chimed in, noting the boy's genius was famous even among gods. If he had just been given one more year, he would have succeeded. But Haniel confidently claimed that he had. Reading further, the scroll explained that any literate person could trigger it. They just needed to learn the basic trick to trigger the script's hidden power. Once mastered, anyone could wield the pure force hidden inside the words. His last wish was for those 28 letters to stay alive forever. So everyday folks could easily achieve their dreams, scanning the text. The young man smiled, offering a quiet thanks to the late ruler. The bright future the great king envisioned had finally become a reality. Activating his abilities, Haniel watched as the wooden blocks began to float. He was absolutely blown away by this potential, realizing words held such massive strength. It was an elegant language designed perfectly for teaching the common folk. Just picturing the symbols in his mind and speaking them aloud was enough. Testing the theory, Haniel simply spoke the magic command word, burn. Instantly, the targets burst into bright flames, leaving him completely stunned. Thrilled, he kept setting things ablaze until the little bear emerged. Grumbling about the loud noise, the spirit gasped in total shock. He leaped onto Haniel's head, demanding to know why he was playing with fire. After all, the kid usually couldn't spark a single flame without his help. He warned Haniel to tone it down before he burned the whole place. Haniel noticed that raising his voice made the flames burn much hotter. He wondered if shouting too loud might eventually consume him entirely, then suddenly. Park Hanul fell completely silent, thinking it over. A longer, more complex word might work. His manifestation would be far more devastating. Taking a massive breath, he roared at the sky, telling it to weep bitterly. Screaming, shouting, he cried out the word sky over and over into the empty air. Absolutely nothing happened, and not gonna lie, his absolute failure is pretty hilarious. That was incredibly embarrassing. He froze, he was not alone out here. Bonham stood there smiling, having witnessed the whole cringy display. How long were you watching? Red-faced, the boy asked with pure embarrassment. She playfully teased his training, but she admitted it was totally fine to practice. In fact, she respected the effort. Her teasing smile only made him redder. Deflective as ever, Park Hanul grumbled and asked why she came to find him. She had heard the rumors about him entering the upcoming celestial battle. Asking if he had truly defeated Chol, she noted his rapid growth. Preparing for her own fights, she had found something valuable just for him. Bonham admitted she had neglected her duty to watch over him lately. But she had been slacking off. Now, he did not need her help. She casually tossed him a small item. Park Hanul caught it. He asked what it was, and she replied that it was a sacred scripture. Someone had specifically requested she deliver it to him for the battle. When he asked who wrote it, Bonham revealed it was a great sage. His father. The revelation hit Park Hanul like a physical blow. Anger flared inside him. He demanded to know where she met that man. Bonham calmly replied that she had found him in a place called Shenfu. Long ago, the god Hwanung descended from heaven, offering sacred mugwort to a bear and a tiger who wished to become human. The tiger gave up and fled. But the bear endured the trial, transforming into the human woman Unnyo. Together, Hwanung and Unnyo gave birth to Dangun, founding the Korean nation. But wait, here is where the story gets really wild and unexpected. The truth was, Unnyo was never actually Hwanung's legitimate primary wife. Hwanung and his true family cultivated the sacred tree of life in Shenfu, a divine realm where the heavens and earth were directly linked. Seonbi explained that Park Hanul's father married Hwanung's youngest princess. To live in Shenfu, she was just finishing up her work there. Preparing to return, she was shocked when a mysterious man suddenly approached her. He warned that his son owed a massive debt to the palace and faced ruin. So he wrote a vital scripture and disappeared without another word. Park Hanul clenched his fists, remembering the coward who abandoned them. The man had squandered their entire fortune on his own selfish pleasures, leaving his family to drown in his massive debts. His father had run from all responsibility, and because of that, his grandmother died in misery. Park Hanul's face hardened with rage. The man had clearly built a fancy new life, discarding his old family. Bonham gently urged him to open the box, promising that it was truly an incredibly valuable item. He opened it. Inside lay a beautifully sealed, mystical bamboo fan. This scripture was forged to tame and seal the most vicious demonic beasts and evil spirits. A 24-blade fan is high quality, but a fan with over 48 blades is the absolute best. Yet, the fan Hanul received had 72. It makes no sense. Why did his father give him this? The girl mentions its power. It easily absorbs evil spirits if he wants to. Try using it. Hanul promises to cherish it. He would never find another way to get his hands on something so precious. Watching him, Seolbom smiles. He knows Hanul faces a brutal path. 8 hours before the competition, Hanul freezes. He senses an aura. Someone is definitely hiding nearby. Suddenly, Damduk steps out. Surprised, Hanul asks what he is doing. There, Damduk has a massive favor. He needs urgent help to craft something. The legendary Flute of Peace. Historically, this mystical instrument first appeared during the unified Silla era, but its true history goes back much further. Long ago, under the reign of King Wangadao, a perfect human lived. Even the immortals could not stop him. Because of his perfection, those immortals lost their power. This allowed the Water Dragon King to unleash a massive natural disaster, slaughtering countless humans, desperate for a quick solution to survive. The three kingdoms temporarily united their forces. Together, their greatest masters forged a celestial item, the legendary Flute of Peace, but its power was too dangerous. They placed 2 heavy restrictions on it. First, it could never be taken outside of the Korean peninsula, and second, it could never be used in any way that would harm the innocent people living there. Damdok explains the flute was only used once in Silla to defeat the mighty Water Dragon King, then it completely vanished. He came straight to Hanul because the boy holds the key to crafting a new one. With the upcoming tournament, the garden's security will be heavily reduced. This is his chance to steal the black jade bamboo from the second garden. But to craft a new Flute of Peace, they absolutely need that black bamboo. If Lady Yuhua grows suspicious, it could easily trigger a massive new war with the Dragon Palace. Hearing this, Hanul realizes that Damdok plans to shoulder all the blame alone. He wants to do this because of those painful human protests they saw in Gwangwon, but Hanul sees that Damdok is different from the other selfish immortals. He will help. Protecting his people is what matters most, besides having someone like Damdok willing to stand up and help is reassuring. It would be wrong to refuse. Damdok is thrilled and admits he was entirely sure the young man would join him. They need to leave immediately, upon arriving at their destination. Hanyul discovers it is a floating island. Damdok explains. This is an artificial space created by the pavilion, if they modify the structural formula, they can break inside, but it will not be easy. Damdok tosses a small wooden horse figurine that instantly transforms into a majestic black steed. He tells Hanyul to hold on tight, riding through the sky. The immortal promises he will not let anyone hurt him. Hanyul is left deeply confused, but looking back, he spots flying sea monsters tailing them closely. Damdok drops Hanyul onto the island, promising to distract the beasts. He charges off, but Hanyul quickly realizes danger is waiting for him too. Popping the Mander drug, he remembers that proper sounds for instructing people work best when sentences are long. The longer and more meaningful the chant is, the stronger the final effect becomes. He yells out fast. Instantly, he begins sprinting forward, sensing a sudden rush of energy. He feels strange power radiating from two separate locations, hoping one is the Black Jade Lake. Right then, a giant lizard attacks him. He dodges instantly. Park is shocked to realize this beast is stronger than a celestial immortal. If it possessed the wood attribute, he would have been at a serious disadvantage. But the young man just smiles. Since he already took his medicine, they cannot touch him. The lizard lunges straight at him, time to make a move. Shouting out the word appear, he summons a massive brown bear, sending the lizards running. The giant bear chases them down, telling the boy to keep waving his magic fan. Park realizes there is a good reason this beast is called the Mountain Fire God. Spirits that rule these massive ranges and carry evil in their names are incredibly rare. Out of all of those legendary entities, only this specific one can control fire naturally. Long ago, people believed that this mountain's intense flame would burn through the very soul. To stop that fire from spreading, they built a massive lake. For years, that water kept the devastating heat completely sealed away. With the lizards retreating, the massive bear looks back and asks the boy for help. Park Hanul finds it weird that the enemies are heading directly toward that strange energy. That jade lake must be the source feeding the lush plants across this entire island. Standing at the top of a high tree, the young man spots something interesting. The running lizards are heading straight toward a structure shaped exactly like a turtle. He wonders if this is the actual lake, but it looks like a giant stone. Just then, the small bear begs him to drop him off right down there. Park warns him that he has never seen this thing before, asking if he might regret it. The stubborn beast is just too curious, so the boy waves his fan, transforming him. Growing back into a massive bear, he effortlessly crushes the lizards. But deep inside the dark cave, a hidden presence is quietly watching him. Suddenly, it traps the massive beast in a water bubble, forcing him to call for help. Park Hanul quickly pops the sphere using his unique skills, saving his friend. He realizes this mysterious entity is the one acting as fertilizer for the land. The small bear gasps, shocked that a real living creature was actually hidden inside. Park wonders if this creature is a young hate beast, since a baby is already this massive. It is crazy to think about how giant an adult version would actually be. It is not a lake at all, but a divine beast trapped just to feed the leaf family. The bear notes that while it is a baby, it is still around 2,000 years old. Because it uses its power so wildly, the beast clearly lacks any basic training. Holding his magic fan, Park Hanul grins and says this works out perfectly for the bear. Terrified, the little beast asks what he means as the young man waves his fan. He promises to buy the bear a jar of honey later, trapping both beasts inside. Trapped inside, the baby beast instantly clashes with the brown bear. Park Hanul is happy to see them both fit, snapping the magic fan shut. He says it is time to leave. Later, Duck warmly thanks him as they walk. They made it out safely, but Park wonders why Duck is heavily out of breath. Suddenly, he notices his companion is bleeding, though Duck tries to hide the pain. Don't sweat it, he insists. A quick rest is all it takes. Even so, Park Hanul feels the dread. That massive fight is hours away. Suddenly, Duke hands over a strange object. He terms it a simple, deserved token for completing that brutal mission. Then, he details how the item was forged. Twin dragons crafted it deep within the flower garden. He wished he could offer much more, but this is his absolute limit. Silent, the boy just observes. Duke shrugs, telling him not to look. So solemn, you deserve the world, kid. Meanwhile, Park Hanul stays focused. There is still so much left to do. First, forge the peace flute. And if things go sideways, they might never escape use clutches. No time to waste. He helps Dio stand, suggesting they finally head out. Dio chuckles warmly, glad the kid remains humble. Together, they quietly depart. Walking away, Park Hanul feels inspired. Dio is incredibly strong, both as a god and immortal. One day, he vows to proudly call him brother. Now the main event. Competitors and eager spectators begin packing the arena. The announcers roar, welcoming everyone to Dokdo in the wild Eastern Ocean. No battles yet, but the air is thick. Trust me, the bloodlust is real. We are in for a classic survival format. Two factions clash, but only one walks away alive. Some spectators worry. These fighters originate from entirely different dimensions. Park Hanul watches Duke closely, squinting. Just hours ago, he was untouched. Not a single scratch on him. Now, the pre-match ceremonies finally begin. To start, national representatives deliver a solemn greeting to the legendary Water Dragon King, humbly requesting his patience as they battle inside his territory. Next up, powerful priestesses gather, ready to completely manipulate the ocean waters. With a flash, Korea and Japan connect. Absolute, jaw-dropping sage magic. The water dragon's power aligns, creating a massive, uncharted dimensional arena. Top executives selected the fighters, testing them against each nation's demands. Suddenly, a masked referee appears. She introduces herself simply as S.A. She vows to judge with complete honor, maintaining fairness until the end. I will protect you with my life, she declares. Then, another masked judge enters. He introduces himself as Odin, echoing the same oath of absolute integrity. I shall protect the 7 branches, he vows, guarding it with my life. And right here is where things get wild. His spatial bag starts glowing. It's blinding. He instantly realizes the masked man is carrying the legendary 7-branched sword, as his own core is vibrating violently in response. The sword box bursts open. The relic is practically screaming with life. Odin quickly seals it back down, apologizing. He admits this fierce blade possesses a mind of its own, going wild whenever a strong foe approaches. But this is bizarre. The sword's true master shouldn't even exist anymore. Odin bows, apologizing for the scene, while Yua looks on, highly intrigued. If the shattered blade holds the blacksmith's divine power, she reasons he should have expected this outcome. Park Hanul recognizes the weapon instantly. It is the famous broken sword, nicknamed because its absurd strength shatters any opposing steel. Legends whisper it was forged from Valhalla's very bones. It shatters any other weapon, apparently made from the legendary bones of Valhalla. Humans are actually incredibly strong, with serious combat power. He finally realizes that the masked fighter was actively suppressing the sword's true power. Had he not intervened, the blade would have flown straight to him. Due to their resonance, the man felt his hidden strength. Now the tournament announcer declares that Liang will step up next. His opponent is none other than a powerful celestial immortal. Slithering next to Park Hanul, Go Hua mutters that it is a real shame. What is a pity, he asks, but she just tells him to keep watching. She hates explaining things anyway, as Park Hanul looks toward the ring. Liang's opponent summons a swarm of Kamitachi. Wind weasels charge forward. But Liang stands firm, blocking the blow to launch a counterstrike. Suddenly, the beasts wheel back and slash him before he can react. The brutal hit leaves Park Hae-myung completely stunned in his seat. He watches as the celestial immortal adapts and grows stronger in seconds. Go Hyeon-hwa grins, asking if he finally gets it now. She knows he is wondering how the immortal dominates without any weapons. But the biggest lesson here is that pure energy itself is a deadly weapon. This arena is more than just a simple tournament for pride. It is a brutal showcase comparing Korean power directly against Japanese skill. Even the high and mighty royal family is watching this play out. The real goal is to stage an unforgettable, dominant performance here. A perfect chance to restore the Go family honor on a global stage. They want to show the entire world a dynamic image of Koreans crushing the Japanese. Though Liang was just a disposable pawn, he somehow forces himself up. Dragging his broken body up, Liang refuses to stay down. Still, the heavy wounds are rapidly taking their toll on him. Blood pours from the deep gashes left by the Kamitachi blades. The commentator even wonders aloud if Korea will lose immediately. Desperate, Liang swings for a counter, but he is far too slow. The wind weasels easily slip through his guard, slashing him to pieces. Completely battered from the strike, Liang collapses onto the stone, unable to stand. The announcer shouts the verdict. Victory goes to the Japanese side. Go Hyeon-hwa turns to Park Hae-myung, a smug look on her face. She tells him to cheer up. Low expectations make their victory sweeter. She is entirely confident that he can win his match. To truly stand out, she says, they must be absolutely flawless. Standing up to face his turn, Park Hae-myung simply promises that he will win. As he steps out into the massive ring, the entire crowd erupts with recognition. The announcer quickly highlights his notoriety from the chaotic Gwanghwamun incident. The very same celestial immortal who just crushed Liang sneers at him. He mocks him as another weak fool destined for a swift defeat. But watch, Park Hae-myung is already moving, closing the gap instantly. He buries a devastating fist right into the celestial immortal's face, silencing the arena. Just like that, his Japanese opponent is down from a single punch. Shocked spectators scream out warnings about charging in blindly, but it's over. That seemed pretty dangerous, but Dio figured the young man's move was actually clean. The girl scoffed, asking if efficiency really meant throwing yourself at the enemy. Going in completely wide open with zero defense, how was that a technique? Dio just smiled. To him, that was exactly how Park learned to fight. Just then, Park swallowed one of his pills to boost his system. A sudden surge of raw energy flooded his cells, instantly pumping up his blood. He knew it made him tougher, but some extra healing power would be better. Either way, his next opponent was already stepping up to face him. Park locked eyes with her, his icy glare instantly putting her on edge. Even though she was sweating, she claimed she would not hold back. With a sudden wave, she summoned massive samurai statues right onto the field. He realized she wanted to keep her distance, slowly clenching his fist. She expected another basic punch and braced herself for the impact. But out of nowhere, a massive wooden hand grabbed one of her statues. She gasped, realizing this crazy kid could summon giant beasts of his own. Park grinned, announcing he was going to settle this the Korean way. Activating his sonic power, he suddenly started belting out a military anthem. The crowd watched in complete confusion. Why on earth was he singing? He chanted the lyrics loud and proud, singing about standing ground against enemies. Park shouted that the fate of their nation rested entirely in their hands. Energized by the song, his wooden giants lunged at the samurai. She tried desperately to defend, but the samurai's head was instantly crushed. Park smiled as his plan worked. Honestly, the crowd was utterly speechless. 2 consecutive wins like it was nothing. This kid was on a roll. But Park knew he had to keep his best cards hidden for now. No need to show his full hand to the next challenger. Besides, this whole tournament was just an elite show for the Yua family. Lee had played the fool and sacrificed himself, but Park had other plans. He was going to steal the spotlight and run this entire show. The announcer boomed that 2 Japanese immortal-level fighters had already fallen. Now it was time for a match against a true, pure immortal. Let's see if this kid can actually pull off a 3rd win. Whispers echoed through the stands. This opponent looked exactly like a shinobi. Park felt it. The man's heavy pressure was on another level. Definitely a pure immortal, not just some standard fighter. Suddenly, the shinobi whipped out sharp kunai, throwing them straight at Park. Park instantly summoned his wooden dolls to block the incoming projectiles. An explosion rocked the stage. Instantly, the shinobi closed in for a strike. He barely dodged, but the stray kunai exploded, blasting him backward. As the shinobi lunged to finish him, Park countered with a quick defensive spell. He panted, admitting that the crazy bastard almost sliced him right in half. Time to get serious. He unleashed a massive burst of magic right back. The irritated bear grumbled that Park had left him all alone. Park just grinned. He demanded to know who this shinobi really was. But Park just brushed it off, promising to explain everything later. Park glanced at the shinobi's clothes, spotting the distinct crest of the Suzuki clan. It represented the 3-legged crow, an honor very few people were actually allowed to wear. So the bear decided to unleash all his fury on the shinobi instead of Park. No contest, declaring that a pure immortal stood 0 chance, the beast struck. He hammered the shinobi with heavy strikes, rapidly melting the defender's armor. Grinning with satisfaction, the bear boasted that this fight would be an easy win. He reared back to deliver the final strike, intending to end the clash right there. Wait, just as the blow was about to land, Park yelled out. Within seconds, that pool of melted armor began to creep toward the bear. This was no ordinary steel gear. It was pure magic utilizing highly malleable metal. Trapped, the bear panicked and begged Park to send some freezing energy his way. Park quickly hatched a plan, yelling back that he would handle the ice energy. Watching the boy channel his power, the nearby spirit found this frost energy strangely familiar. Just as the spirit registered his shock, a massive presence suddenly materialized. Too late, the terrified bear screamed, demanding to know who summoned it. The announcers watching the match completely lost their minds, and honestly, who could blame them? They shouted that Park's ultimate move was blinding the entire arena. The defeated shinobi stood there with teary eyes, staring directly at Park. Total humiliation. He silently hoped this torture would end right now. Exhausted and beaten down, the shinobi looked ready to throw in the towel. But before he could yield, a woman standing beside him stepped forward. Unleashing a crushing, heavy aura, she declared that this was merely a friendly match. It was supposed to be a peaceful event between their factions. Because of that, she argued there was no need to risk such valuable lives. Park just watched her quietly, while his 2 companions observed from the sidelines. Park realized the shinobi was likely too important to be killed in this arena. He must have some deep, vital connection to the sanctuary itself. The lady admitted she felt quite embarrassed for stepping in to protect her fighter. But watching him get completely overwhelmed forced her to break the rules. Because of her interference, they were officially forfeiting and withdrawing him immediately. No choice, Park could only blink in surprise at how quickly they surrendered. Yua thanked everyone for their hard work, declaring Park the winner of 3 straight matches. She admitted she never expected him to hold such insane, overpowered gear. Park found her praise pretty hollow, still feeling a bit unsatisfied with the outcome. He muttered that he would have dominated even more with proper advance notice. The woman just tilted her head, completely confused about what he meant. Park smirked, noting that her little stunt had actually made him a massive target. He asked if she seriously believed all awakened people were just clueless idiots. Not a chance, they were far sharper than she gave them credit for. Meanwhile, the brooding shinobi glared back at Park with pure, silent hatred. Park honestly just felt bad for him. Later, he finally caught up with another ally. She congratulated him on a job well done, though she called the ending a real shame. Park waved it off, but she quickly clarified she was not actually talking about him. She compared him to a television producer, the mastermind pulling the strings behind the scenes. A highly skilled director who could still be easily thrown away when the show ends. It took seconds. Park did his best but chose to hold back, which was better. It saved the boy's reputation, since Park made his defeat look completely natural. The protagonist thinks that in soccer, this is like subbing out your star player. A clutch player who would easily secure the victory, but he knew one thing. The crowd would not cheer for this decision after all the drama that had unfolded so far. Now, the boy admits he is surprised she knows about this. She replies that while it is rare nowadays, people still discuss it constantly online. Spreading the word on social media, then asks if following global trends is really that weird. Park admits it is pretty unusual, but he respects her decision anyway. Just as the announcer begins introducing the next fighters, something goes wrong. But wait, right then, the entire arena starts shaking as a massive tsunami rises. He demands to know the location of the traitors who insulted his royal palace. What are they talking about? Our protagonist has absolutely no clue. But the girl quickly warns him that these are the sons of the Water Dragon King. The intruder shouts that he wants no excuses from those who defied their laws. Wondering if they truly believed, he would not notice their little scheme. They were using this entire tournament as a cover for their secret agenda, trading valuable treasures right under the palace nose, so they had better surrender the culprits. Otherwise, he is fully prepared to deliver his father's ultimate warning. He demands they immediately hand over the 7-branched sword axis in their possession. If they show genuine remorse and apologize, perhaps his father will show mercy and return their original offerings, but the surrounding crowd is not having it. Seeing their defiance, the dragon's son asks if this is their final answer. He grips his weapon tightly and prepares to strike, declaring his intent. He promises to drag every last one of them down into the 7 seas. The ocean erupts. Park watches the chaos unfold in complete disbelief. The chaos unfolded far too quickly, but he must act right now. He has to exploit this panic to finally merge the axis with his blade. Soon he spots the exact target he needs, hoping for a repeat performance. Triggering that same powerful resonance from earlier could be his only saving grace. But a massive water dragon suddenly coils around the arena, submerging everyone. Trapped underwater, our protagonist realizes he cannot survive like this for long. Left with absolutely no other choice to survive, he quickly draws his glowing, ancient magic sword. It actually works. He quickly manages to escape the rising water. No luck, the wild currents drag him right back into the deep. He never expected to get dragged back under and must escape this place immediately. Suddenly, a blinding radiance floods the ocean floor as his blade reacts. Park senses an overwhelming pressure, far stronger than anything he has ever felt. He wonders if this incredible power is the legendary golden aura of the Axis. Having been tightly sealed for ages, its unleashed force is absolutely staggering. The raw energy is so intense, it actually begins pushing against his own. This massive surge is completely out of control, threatening to consume him. If he holds on to this power any longer, his body will tear apart. He has no choice but to discharge the excess force all at once. The sheer destruction from a single swing leaves him completely speechless. He froze in shock as that bizarre magic tried to actively engulf him. And just like that, he plummeted. Soon, Park ended up falling. Landing hard in an unfamiliar place, he looked around in absolute shock. Where on earth was he? This warped spacetime must be from that sword. Its power felt way worse than those garden gates leading to another dimension. He wondered if another heavy blow would send him right back. But honestly, it was probably smarter to explore this weird area a little bit first. Right then, something caught his eye because just ahead of him, someone was walking. Staring closely at the mysterious figure, Park actually recognized the guy. It was that shinobi from earlier. The kid must have been totally enraged. He had actually followed Park all the way to this strange place. The boy stepped right on Park, declaring there are far more tools in this world. But he would at least let Park choose which tool he wanted to use. Park simply replied that he did not speak Japanese, so the boy told him to just choose his own weapon. Suddenly, a strange plant appeared beside Park. Pulling the plant out, the shinobi asked what Park was doing, calling him a coward. He said Park only won battles by sending his spirits to fight for him. He mocked Park, asking if he really thought earth magic would protect him now. The shinobi sneered, fully intending to make the doctor swallow his words. Park just looked confused, asking what on earth he was talking about. Right then, the plant suddenly transformed into something entirely different. The shinobi began violently hallucinating, eventually collapsing straight to the ground. Park sighed, warning him that he cannot just touch everything he sees. But suddenly, blood gushed from the shinobi's mouth as he went completely limp. Park realized he had accidentally killed the shinobi, but he had no time to celebrate. Suddenly, another figure appeared out of nowhere, calling Park a complete idiot. The bear in human form grumbled that every single time he shows up, Park is wrecked. He told him not to worry, saying Park just needed an elixir to recover. That was his usual trick, but this time, Park looked much worse. Park asked the bear to be totally honest with him. He could see the panic. The bear spirit admitted that the last blow had critically damaged his kidney. Park could feel his life force rapidly draining away from his body. If this keeps up, he won't just run out of energy, he will die. The bear spirit urgently reminded him that he did not have to suffer alone. He pointed out that Dak had already helped him out before. Park possessed the powerful core of a supreme immortal, meaning he should survive. The incredible power that Dak granted him was still resting inside. It existed even before his transformation, the bear firmly agreed. Park carried the legendary dragon's blessing, a rare gift that could injure gods. He barked, asking if a kid who hadn't even lived a century wanted to die. He snapped that it was better to get eaten by a bear than rot like a sack. There is no way Dak would want him dying in such a pathetic way. Besides, the bear knew Dak would hate to see him die so pathetically. Park quietly apologized for everything as his vision began to fade. He drifted into unconsciousness. Meanwhile, far away, Yu was ordering one of her subordinates. Leave now, the servants were ordered away before she killed him. She believed those people knew absolutely nothing, just ungrateful fools. Ignorant savages. After all, the Eastern Court was her territory. They did not even appreciate her kindness in killing that man. Yet they raised their blades against her, remembering his words, the girl doubted the Dragon King would ruin his celestial battle like that. Absurd lie, wondering where that old serpent had even heard such things. He was trying to create a hero amid this massive celestial battle. Though her plan to be worshipped by humans failed, it was not useless. For that reason, they decided to wait and watch what would happen. Soon, the heads of the Eastern Sea would be brought to her. Meanwhile, Park was finally waking up, wondering how long he had slept. Checking his internal energy flow, he noted his core would recover soon. Awareness returned. He sat up, wondering what was happening around him. Why were horns on his forehead? His senses felt incredibly sharp. But either way, not much time could have passed since the incident. He noted his body felt surprisingly cleaner than he had expected. Looking around, he figured someone had been taking good care of him. Perhaps it was the bear and Sunbai, keeping him in this safe haven. He had used the bamboo fan to consume the magic pearl instead. Because of that barrier, Sunbai likely took major risks to protect him. Park stepped outside to look for her, and what he saw next was absolutely wild. He could not believe the area had completely turned into a forest. His plant shield had somehow grown into these massive, towering trees. Years must have passed since his deep sleep, peering past the edge of the barrier. He saw nothing but total devastation, traces of a massive fight. Surely she had battled here. Where on earth was she now? A strange rustling sound broke the quiet. He quickly went to check. But then he gasped. A strange, small house stood directly in the center. Lurking nearby was a glowing blue creature, his own loyal spirit. It had grown absolutely massive. Why was it cowering in fear? Perhaps his new horns were terrifying the poor little beast. Suddenly, the creature lunged. Park easily sidestepped, telling it to stand down. "No biting your master." The beast paused, finally recognizing his voice. Its aggression melted away. It finally recognized its master. Park smiled, patting its head, still as cute as ever. Its core energy barely changed despite eating the magic pearl. It was probably channeling all that power to heal itself. Park looked around, spotting his old clothes lying on the grass. He searched them for anything useful and found a scroll. Opening it, he wondered if the text was written in Japanese. Perhaps this was one of those ancient manuals written by shinobi. He recalled the Suzuki clan's crow crest, a symbol of Yatagarasu's deepest secrets. These clothes surely belonged to a ninja. Could they transform? A ninja outfit possessing transformation abilities. That was incredibly, deeply fascinating. Just to wear them, right after, the young man catches a strange shift in the air. He wonders what it is. The feeling leads him back to that fresh battlefield. Spotting a strange group, Park wonders why they are desperately crowding around the area. They are trying to smash the barrier, looking at their weird hair and clothes. He wonders if they belong here, but then he gets a closer look. What he sees completely stuns him. They hold a club identical to the one Wano gave him. Since the weapon is so familiar, the truth finally clicks in his mind. These guys are goblins. He never expected to run into monsters in this space. It is the dimension of the seven-branched sword. Is this their home? If so, they might be planning to claim his domain for themselves. Seeing them almost through the wall, Park knows he has to stop them. But then wait, things are about to get real weird. A figure appears. Emerging from behind the monsters, the leader demands to know who the kid is. Park stands his ground and coolly asks who is actually running this show. The leader introduces himself as Tu, demanding to see the master of the sword. Park is completely lost, utterly confused by what the creature is saying. He asks what they want with the owner. Tu sighs, sounding incredibly disappointed. Apparently, only the true master can enter that holy ground, if Park does not speak. The goblin promises to end his life, but Park is not backing down. He says he cannot tell him anything. How can he, without any context? The monster needs to explain why he is hunting down the master first. Tu yells that he wants to punish the guy. Their old king left a promise. A worthy master would arrive with the blade, but nobody ever showed up. Park pieces it together. It looks like his special weapon has deep roots here. The seven-branched sword is definitely connected to this weird world. Furious, the beast snaps that they have waited way too long for this. Generations of leaders passed down the vow, and they are sick of waiting. The pathetic coward who owns the weapon deserves a brutal lesson for stalling. He demands a direct path to the owner, or he will take Park down. Threatening to take his head, the goblin glares. Park just stays quiet. He calmly asks if they have seen a red bear roaming around. The monster scoffs. If it is that stupid beast, he ordered it to help them. But the bear refused. Since this is their territory, they locked it up. They locked the beast away in a prison. Park feels his blood boil. He forces himself to stay cool. At least he knows his friend is alive. Park looks the leader in the eye and confesses that he is the master. Tu laughs in his face, telling the kid to stop lying before he gets hurt. Can you believe this guy? Park is absolutely stunned by the sheer disrespect. The goblin keeps trash talking, calling him a tiny weakling who cannot fight. He looks like some helpless kid. Park just sighs at the insults. He mutters under his breath that these monsters are absolute brainless fools. Tu tells him to get lost if he is not helping them break the wall. They will let him live as long as he does not cause trouble. Gripping his blade, Park's temper completely flares. They are mocking him. He readies a massive strike, commanding his spirit to spit fire. The monster, totally shocked by what just happened, panicked and started to run. Within seconds, they were totally defeated, and Park warned them that if they kept acting up, he would make them spit out more red beans. The goblins quickly begged him to stop. Park was pretty impressed, realizing that these little guys absolutely despised red beans. Then, he asked if their leader was strong. The goblin replied, mentioning that their leader wielded a staff like no one else. But Park wondered if simply knowing how to swing a staff made her strong.